Coming up next on the 5:30 News, Hurricane Fran pulled the plug on many restaurants. But now that the power's back on in some area restaurants, they're back in business. How safe, though, is the food to eat? We'll go along with the health department to find out.
And many schools remain closed because of Fran. Here's a list. We'll be right back.
Weather School, WRAL's commitment to educating North Carolina students on the science of weather, sponsored by Carolina Ford Dealers.
Sure, you're not eating it.
Hi, how are you guys?
Everything's leaving.
Everything's leaving.
Yep.
Like where? Trash?
Trash.
Health Inspector Frances Breedlove is making the rounds.
These people got on a little bit, but then it went off again.
She's checking out restaurants where she knows the power is still out.
When's your power go out?
She wants to make sure restaurants without power have closed.
You're doing the right thing. You have no power, so you're closed.
She wants food stored above 40 degrees thrown out.
Well, that's still holding 40, so that one's fine.
The Rockola Cafe at Celebration at Six Forks emptied its walk-in coolers and transferred the contents to a refrigerated trailer.
It shows the freezer running about 12 degrees.
But the Domino's Pizza just around the corner has to deliver everything to the dump.
I'm throwing everything out in the whole store.
It's going to the dump because a nearby dumpster is overflowing.
The health department is encouraging people to double bag their trash and to try to keep it in the dumpster to avoid smell and bees and rodents.
Don't be setting out a lot of food just to entice them in, or a lot of spoiled food. It would entice them in because you can invite a problem right up to your doorstep.
Back on the restaurant beat, Frances is poking around the freezer of the Las Margaritas Mexican restaurant at Six Forks.
Everything in the freezer is okay.
From what inspectors like Frances report, restaurants serving spoiled food is not the problem. Disposing of mountains of garbage is. Stuart Watson, WRAL TV 5 News.
Health inspectors are also looking at grocery stores. If you have a question or complaint about perishable food for sale, call your local health department.
And at home, when in doubt, throw it out.
Yes.
You betcha.
Good advice.
In sports, NC State's football team looks to bounce back after their...
Willing to help you. It's goodbye, Fran. Hello, Hortense. Yes, there is another hurricane brewing. Will it head this way? Ven's got the answers. You'll get them next.
That's right, and Brooke asked a very interesting question. When was the last time we got hit by 2 hurricanes in the same year, back to back? I'll have the answer of that, too, coming up.
And we know what Fran left behind in our part of the woods. Coming up, see what other parts of the country are having to deal with.
Now, here's certified meteorologist Ben Crosby with your 3D weathercast.
Taking a look at your radar right now, you'll be able to see the showers coming in from the east, northeasterly direction if you live up here around the Roanoke Rapids area, and that's sliding very quickly towards the east. This line right here, look at that. That's a pretty impotent line sliding southeasterly right in northern Wake County at the hour. You can see how that line progressed to the east-southeast. Look at this right over Durham, now getting a hefty shower or thunderstorm, and that should roll to the southeast and maybe get into the Falls Lake area overnight tonight, so watch out for that for sure. And then you can see this up by Lewisburg and maybe out towards Centerville, a pretty good line of moderate moderate showers going on up there as well. Outside right now, we're looking at temperatures pretty much 87 degrees with some scattered showers. What this will mean is more showers and thunderstorms during the afternoon, and there could be some persistent periods of rain. Look at the darker shades of green. In that area, there will be some heavy rain and possible flooding wherever those thunderstorms develop. They'll be very slow to move out of the area. As we go into the forecast through this evening, strong storms may be possible in some localized areas right now with some heavy rains tomorrow. 5-day forecast shows another front coming on.
A guy could get colossal.
Through Fran on this very fragile barrier island. Any way to tell how historically Fran will pan out?
It won't be up there in the top 5. It'll be down probably 12, 13, 14, 15, something like that.
Even 15th of all time would be historic, but veteran hurricane forecaster Bob Sheets isn't just throwing out a guess. Sheets spent 34 years at the National Hurricane Center in Miami and retired recently as its director. When we caught up with Sheets, he had just viewed the damage by helicopter. What's just your reaction to the way the storm hit, what you've seen from the air?
Well, not atypical at all as to what we would expect from a hurricane about like this. It didn't have the strength of a Hugo, so the core region was not quite as strong. It's very similar to what Hurricane Opal did on the Florida Panhandle area and the damage all the way into Atlanta and, of course, all the way into Raleigh.
The images of Fran's power cover the coast. Huge chunks of beachfront chewed up and washed away. Cars buried in ways no one could imagine before a storm this powerful. In Wrightsville Beach, boats tossed like toys into parking lots. Piers damaged by Bertha, devastated by Fran. Authorities are still just beginning the monumental task of cleaning up. The beachfront may never look the same, and that's not the only place Fran made changes. Anyone wanting to hangar a plane at Wallace Airport can pretty much hang it up. They get some high water from time to time, but never like this. In Duplin County, the turkeys are high and dry, but trapped by high water. They should be able to fly the coop by Thanksgiving. Across the county, the hogs have plenty of mud, but Fran tore the roof off. Farmers have to spray their swine investment to keep it cool after the hurricane.
Boy, what a mess. That's the news at 5:30. Thanks for joining us.
Next on the 6 o'clock news, repairing the lines to restore life as it was before the storm. A live report on power outages coming up.
Some local residents wake up underwater. We'll have the latest on flooding across North Carolina.
Several school systems are still cleaning up from Fran's visit. We'll show you when they'll reopen.
And ice and water are hot commodities. We'll let you know where to go. I'm Pam Saul.
Crabtree, Craig Fischel, and Tom Suter on WRAL's 6 o'clock news.
It's day 4 since Fran turned off the lights. Now, patience grows thin on both ends of the power pole as crews work around the clock to get residents out of the dark. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining us. David has the night off. Now, we have just learned that Orange County has lifted its boil order.
And we have team coverage tonight of cleaning up from Fran's fury. We have the absolute latest on the push to turn the power back on. The newest list of school closings for tomorrow will show you where water and food is available in our area. Tonight's newscast is also being simulcast on Mix 101.5 and Foxy 107 and 104 for people listening by radio. Tonight's team coverage starts on the streets of Raleigh with Mark Roberts. And Mark, it's the question everyone wants answered. When's the power coming back on?
Jim, here's what the power folks say. CP&L says they'll have 90% of customers back online by Friday. Duke Power says they'll have all of their customers back online by mid to late week. The reason for that? These out-of-town power crews that have descended on the area, like the SIPS crew back behind me here. That's Central Illinois Power Service. They come from 90 miles south of Chicago, Illinois, trying to repair power here on Wakefield Street. Now, we have a diagram that we can put on your screen for you here now. A lot of people are wondering how this process works to put everybody back on. They say it's all business. They hit the high-voltage power stations first. Then they move into the substations that are dispersed throughout the region. Then they get to
a number of places, and this is about as bad as I personally have ever seen, certainly in terms of power outages over such big areas in there.
Getting power to the people is a big headache at the CP&L phone center.
We're trying to get our main circuits in the air right now.
While the phone operators lead in frustration.
Harold Ruddisel. He explained how the North Carolina...
You see that little, it was splattered all over the road right here, and we set it in last night before the thunderstorm hit, and now they're putting the main circuit back on this pole so that we can energize the main circuit coming from this way back down Ridge Road.
So Fran took your whole pole out there.
Oh, Fran took about 4,000 in Wake County.
Out-of-town power crews are the newest, most welcome visitors all over the Triangle. This crew from Nashville, Tennessee has a lot of work to do off Ridge Road in Raleigh. Ben Alexander has a generator and a good deal of patience. Unlike many, he seems to understand why he's still offline.
Well, that's the main feeder line right there. And that wire going right over there goes to my house. I just wish they could, you know, plug it in.
Has anybody give you anything, a heads up when you might be back online or anything like that?
I heard 3 to 4 days.
How do you feel about that?
Well, it's been hot sleeping. I've taken Tylenol PM to help me sleep. But.
Okay. Well, there'll be no sleep here. With these guys, 6,500 people are working across the area trying to put the power back.
Going up all the time.
That's right. Well, we're up to 48 already, as a matter of fact, and experts say that's just going to go up and up before all is said and done.
All right. Thanks a lot, Nola. Sure. Well, one of the major tasks in North Carolina.
Angle on every point east, particularly in the urban areas. You can see the traffic here is fairly heavy right here at Lake Wheeler Road here, right at Tryon. You've got the highway patrolman out there directing traffic.
The late numbers are CP&L still has about 222,170 customers in the dark, just under 250,000 for them. Duke Power is still.
The lack of working traffic lights in the Triangle has begun to work on the patience of drivers.
Oh, it's awful. The traffic is terrible down this road. So it's long lines.
Are you scared going through these intersections with no lights?
As long as there's a highway patrolman here, it's not that bad. So I knew it was going to be.
Glad to have them here, but they have got.
Traffic jams have become commonplace in the capital city, despite the best efforts of police officers. Police say all Raleigh intersections now have either working signals or a traffic officer.
Now that people are going back to work and we're having true rush hours, we're finding that the traffic.
Some of the workers told Lorraine Goodwin on Ridge Road that she'd have electricity back shortly. She's been surviving with flashlights and candles since the storm, and she can't wait till her power.
17 major intersections remain without signals, down from more than 24 this morning.
We started out with 30-some this morning. We're down to 17. We're doing that with, we got 48 additional troopers here.
To finish turning the power back onto these main lines here, but now the slow work starts, like here at this house, where their power got completely cut off at the pole. Now the crews are going to have to go back out and put these up one at a time, and that's going to take a while.
We were able to
have either traffic officers or lights. You got to observe a little bit of courtesy here. The first thing you do, if you are the first person to get to the intersection, you've got the right of way. If you and another car get there at the same time, then the person on the right has the right of way.
That means a lot of people will have to wait as long as the weekend to get power back. CP&L says it's the biggest disaster they've ever had, and they say as much as we may hate it, the only thing we can do is wait.
But I would say to our customers,
may mean misery for people downstream. 11 people had to be rescued from a Johnston County neighborhood after floodwaters overran their homes. As Brian Bowman reports, they say warnings from TV and radio were not enough to let residents know what was coming.
From the air, you can see how thoroughly the Neuse River invaded the Buckleberry Road community. 80-year-old Jasper Everett has lived in this part of Johnston County his entire life. He has never seen anything like this.
I thought everything was over and gone. Got certified. I looked out the door this morning scared. I said, that's a lie. What's happening now?
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is releasing water from a record-high Falls Lake. Downstream on the Neuse River, this is the result. For 3 days, the Corps and local emergency management have sent out warnings using local TV and radio.
But the people in this community still don't have power yet, so they never heard those warnings. In fact, they said they had no idea any of this was going to happen.
Art.
The cleanup from Hurricane Fran continues in Durham today. More than 30,000 people there are still without power. Crews are working overtime to clear the trees and the branches to make way for new power lines. Now, police are also out directing traffic.
The Corps says the warning was there. It does not have the manpower to send people door to door unless there is a mandatory evacuation. That did not happen this time. But the people who live here say they're the ones who suffer, feeling quite literally like they've been left up the creek without a paddle. Brian Bowman.
We're running out of meat, but we've been barbecuing every night.
Some good news for the people in Durham.
Amount of water it's been releasing. It had been letting roughly 2,600 gallons.
The Triangle was another hard-hit area. Thousands of homes there are still without water and without power as they struggle to pick up the pieces there. NBC 17's Sue Yanello has that story.
friend were playing near the creek's waterfall when he was pulled underwater.
It fell over between my house and another tree.
Just down?
Down, yeah.
Tim Shermer has his own souvenir from Fran, slicing the house he worked so hard for. This tree chased his father and his son Chase from the bedroom just in time.
2 feet more on this house right here.
You know, you should smile more.
Employees are asked to call.
Without question, that tree would have come plumb through the house. So we feel real blessed.
The Adelsons feel blessed.
Near you. U.S. Agriculture Secretary
flying.
Well, I'm thankful that I'm alive and I got my house and family and health and something to eat, and everything is beginning to look better.
Listen to this. These folks are cheering for ice. Some of them waited for hours to get it. The Red Cross was handing out.
We just heard cracking and splitting the wood and...
Mike Peoples needs a new house. He wanted more wood in his home, but this is not what he had in mind.
Yeah, we're alive. That's it. I mean, all this can be replaced. You know?
The Teeples feel the same, even though they have an unwanted guest in their living room. Fran sent him. And farther east, roads cave in. In Franklin County, the problem is water, not wood. But through it all, friend helps friend.
I already helped his house. Yeah, me and him helped. We had to.
You can see it in the faces of people in Johnston County. They're tired, battered, and sick of dealing with the aftermath of Fran.
Johnston was hit extremely hard.
Power lines snapped by fallen trees still dangle in roads all over the county.
Sunday was the first day we were able to get out of the driveway.
In Smithfield, Colby Langley not only has to deal with no power, but look at what this tree did to his only means of transportation.
I had a couple from our yards fall right on top of it, and also had
30 more days. I think we'll be busy for 30 more days before we even get close. And as many people got power out, I figure we'll just cut us a path straight to the coast.
Experts say the homeowners should be...
We're just surviving. Yeah. And this helps.
...out there to make some fast cash. A group of people who live in Johnston County had to be evacuated today. Floodwaters from the Little River threatened mobile homes near Rains Crossroads and Grove Church Road. Everyone was able to get out safely.
One of Hurricane Fran's many victims.
You know, the dirty clothes are stacking up, and it's hard to get proper stuff to eat because we don't have refrigeration and whatever. And of course, it's lights out as soon as the sun goes down.
Now, the Riverside Christian Center is hoping for a donation of a generator, maybe from somebody who already has electricity, so the rescue mission can continue to...
Since he went swimming in the swollen waters of Crabtree Creek over the weekend. The creek is too high and currents too strong to search for him. 18-year-old Jackson Griffin is presumed drowned. The cause of this accident is still unclear.
Watermarks in some seaside homes were as high as 8 feet. Fran also left behind large sand dunes. Many owners say damage to their inland homes is worse than their coastal property.
Schools remain closed today across much of the Triangle and
now know firsthand what the Red Cross does after a disaster. For Rosa Dawson, her
a little path right here and just start moving.
Come on forward. We do have an ice truck in, and we're giving 2 bags away per customer.
We're out of ice now. We're out of everything that needs to be kept on ice, so I'm not sure.
A lot of downed power lines, a lot of locations where kids could not get to bus stops.
Along with Bell South, they want to make sure that you're able to phone home. Mobile phone
to a camp in the Persian Gulf with local troops.
High School and Chapel Hill High School. Local
will not be in session until meals can be served. And we have the list of school closings for you now. We're going to run them down for you. If we could take those now. Abundant Life Christian.
Soap, towels, shampoo, and other personal items.
And if what you need is a hot meal, lunch is served at noon, and dinner is served at 5.
You can call your local Red Cross for feeding sites in your area.
The power's out and the fridge is full of food.
We'll tell you what you should and shouldn't keep coming up.
I'm Leah Sanders, live at the Kroger on 6 Forks and Wake Forest. If you need ice, take a look at this truck. We've got it. A live report coming up.
Rain is what we don't need. You can see some showers now.
School closed through Wednesday.
The Governor Moorhead school
forecast.
And among the schools that will be closed. Wayne County, Durham Public Schools, Wake County, Granville County with an optional teacher workday. St. Augustine's College, Chapel Hill, Carrboro, Orange.
Community College, tonight's classes canceled. Noose Baptist Christian School closed through Wednesday. 5 evening classes canceled through Wednesday.
North Carolina Wesleyan Leesville High School evening class.
The Home Depot.
Entertainment. I'm Giselle Fernandez.
No advantage classes Monday and Tuesday, and the North Raleigh Christian Academy is going to be closed through Wednesday.
Orange County School
workday. Wayne County schools closed tomorrow with an optional staff workday.
West Edgecombe Middle School closed Tuesday. Wilson County.
Standing by live at one of those lake locations. Leah, where are you, and is there any ice left there?
Well, I am standing behind the camera right now. You can see right inside the truck there is still ice left. We are at the Kroger on Six Forks and Wake Forest. We started giving away ice about 4:30 today. Now, there were 4 trucks that came into the Triangle area, 1 to Clayton, 1 to Durham, 1 to Chapel Hill. Most of those areas are already out of ice, but if you're still looking, you still need something to...
And lethal. The goal is to use as...
Willamette Industries, making forest products.
Back to you.
Leah, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of ice left in there. Are there more people than ice at this point, or are you going to be doing okay at that location?
Actually, we're going to be doing okay at this location. Most of the people, there have been a lot of stragglers that have been coming up getting...
Experts who know how to treat, talk...
Missile activity, and if anything...
Ice left over. Now, there were a bunch of people clear down to those trees you see down there that waited in line, and we were kind of concerned that not everybody was going to be able to get it, but everybody in fact did. And for those people who did get the ice, it was well worth it.
Okay, well, that is great to hear. Thanks a lot, Leah.
And with power outages across the Triangle, some homes without power since Thursday, it's really important to pay attention to your food. Things that can be salvaged in your fridge are things like ketchup, mustard, pickles, relish, jams and jellies, as you see, but you've got to throw away poultry and dairy products, anything with meat juice or...
Church and Spring Hope Baptist Church. In Garner, go to the Aversboro Baptist Church or Garner Senior High School. For you in Wake Forest, the Northern Wake Senior Center will be open, and Smithfield-Selma High School is serving meals for folks in Johnston County. For a shower, people in Durham can get one at the YMCA at 2119 Chapel Hill Road. And here's another shower center. Silver Lake Water Park at 5300 Tryon Road opens at 10 a.m. And most fire stations in Cary are providing water and showers from 4 to 8 p.m. Please take your own toiletries.
Well, if you're among the 300,000 people still without power, then you know how valuable a bag of ice can be.
Your body, how much do you know about it? If it...
Could we see any problems associated with yet another storm in the tropics? Bill Ray is up next with details and the work week forecast. We'll be right back.
Many of them got there before dawn because the most important thing they could do today was find a bag of ice.
Everything else in the refrigerator is gone, but at least we can have a cold drink.
But as the morning wore on, and as the morning grew warmer, there was still no truck. Turns out it had broken down around Charlotte. Most of the 300 or so people took it in stride. But as it got hotter, so did a few of the needy.
There's a lot of people, older people, people with small children that are just hanging out here sweating, and it just seems to me like, you know, we appreciate it, but it would be better to be a little bit better organized in the future.
Then it came, a good 4 hours late, but there it was, a semi full of ice. A little victory in a week full of defeats.
Hey, okay.
And those frozen 40-pounders went as fast as they could be unloaded.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
And that cold bag of ice on the shoulder, it eased the morning's pain in the neck.
This feels fantastic. It was worth the wait.
Bob Langford, WRAL TV 5 News.
I know that feeling personally. This is what it's come down to. Wake County Public Safety is not aware of any free ice distribution sites in the county at this time, but several grocery stores are stocked with ice, thank goodness.
Worth its weight in gold right now.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Another hurricane is picking up speed in the Caribbean Sea, but will it head our way?
Greg Fischel's coming up next with details when team coverage of Fran's fury continues.
Come to Bobby.
Now, here's certified meteorologist Ben Quast.
Beautifully uncomplicated.
Good evening. What we don't need is rain, and looks like every afternoon in the evening we may get...
Current temperature right now 86 after a high today of 88. Humidity 61%, pressure steady, southwest winds at 10. No rain at the airport, and most areas haven't seen it today. The lake levels continue at absurd levels. Carr Lake heading up toward its full pool. It's not forecast to get quite...
upper level was able to open up, and today it was time for the lower level to open up. And some of the businesses were still busy doing some last-minute cleaning this morning when things opened up, but they do hope to have everything pretty much back to normal maybe in the next few days or so.
That was definitely one of the biggest messes in the city down there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. Lots of flooding out there on Glenwood and the parking lots around the mall itself, and all that water inside.
In a city of messes, that was a big one.
I have an important thing to pass along. NOAA weather radio off the air tonight. It won't be restored until tomorrow morning.
Okay. Right. But we'll be back at 11, that's for sure.
When you see all the devastation and destruction, and playing a football game on Saturday was the farthest thing from my mind when I got up on Friday morning.
Many players lost electricity, finding food was a problem, and some even had to wade through water at their apartments.
Coaches with combat.
They can fit it.
Tonight, after the game, you'll find out what the utility companies are doing to get electricity back on to tens of thousands of customers who are still left in the dark. That's it for this edition of News Channel 11.
As it moved inland and the runoff has caused flooding. This is the Potomac River in the Washington, D.C. area. President Clinton toured the area by helicopter today. The president promised quick action to help with federal disaster assistance. Floodwaters continue to rush across North Carolina today. In Raleigh, some of the highways surrounding the city were submerged. Flooding is not the only problem for the residents here, as they are still digging out from debris left by Hurricane Fran. Last night, about this time...
Call the Fox 22 News Hotline anytime. 1-800-84-FOX-22.
Good evening, I'm Bob Vernon. Tonight's big story, big hurricane, big headache. From the coast to the cities, Carolina cleans up again.
I'm Liz Hamill in Raleigh. Coming up in a live report, I have all your answers where to get a hot shower, meal, and plenty of ice.
Questions about your insurance claims. I'm Lori Gary in Raleigh with the answers in tonight's Spotlight Report.
I'm Peter Cook in Raleigh, and if you can hear my voice or see me, you must have power. What about everyone else? We'll have the latest.
And I'm Carolyn Clifford. Stick around. Team coverage starts right now.
Now, Bob Vernon, Carolyn Clifford, Rick Sullivan with sports, and meteorologist Steve Swankowski. North Carolina's award-winning primetime newscast, the Fox 22 10 o'clock news.
Monday night, with thousands still in the dark, power crews work overtime to repair the damage done by Hurricane Fran. The storm may be long gone, but the damage will last for months.
Indeed it will, and here's the latest tonight. Power outages remain widespread around our area. The governor is asking for additional federal aid to 18 counties already declared disaster areas. The death toll from the storm now stands at 28, including 17 here in North Carolina. And today, many beach property owners got their first look at homes damaged by the storm. We start with a power problem.
Work crews from more than a dozen states are here making repairs. Already more than half the people who lost power have it back, but many others are still in the dark. Here's a look at the very latest numbers. CP&L reports 222,000 people are still without power. About half of those people are from the Triangle area north to the Virginia line. Duke Power says about 90% of its customers are back online. 50,000 are not. Most are residents of Durham. And Wake Electric says about 6,900 people remain without power tonight. Now, for people without power, it can't come soon enough. Fox 22's Peter Cook is standing by live in our newsroom. He's here to update us on efforts to let people plug back in. Peter, what can you tell us?
Well, Carolyn, Carolina Power and Light officials say Fran hit the neighborhoods on either side of Glenwood Avenue harder than just about anywhere else in the Raleigh area. So tonight, that's where we spend our time. Many there are still without power, but some of the Triangle's newest arrivals are trying to change that.
One of the 4,000 utility poles down by Fran being replaced on Glenwood Avenue. And not a single guy doing the work has ever heard of Glenwood Avenue.
I've never been to Raleigh.
What do you think?
It's tore up.
This crew from Tennessee is among the 5,000 out-of-towners helping North Carolina plug back in after Fran. So far, they say the natives have been friendly for the most part.
Real friendly. Bring you cookies and drinks and tea.
There is a certain percent that wants their power on, don't understand why it's not on, why neighbors got power and they don't. and they're hard to deal with.
What do you tell them?
They'll get it sooner or later.
Still, some ask, why does it take so long? The answer lies in the damage many people don't see in the huge transmission lines and substations well before the juice ever hits your house.
I don't think I've seen anything that compares to it in the 27 years I've been in this industry.
Then I have another outlet that I plug in for all the neighbors. Then I run it on the hood of the truck, and they can make coffee. They can do whatever they want to.
Kamal Mansour is getting by using his motorhome. He can't use his cars because 4 of them were crushed by the same tree. His neighborhood hasn't seen a utility truck, but like others, he's not complaining.
And I think they're doing all they can do. I think complaining or whining about it or crying about it's not going to make it happen any faster.
We go to bed earlier, you know, and we don't watch any television, don't have any radio, that our cellular phone doesn't work. But, you know, we've become closer, sort of, you know, talk more.
The Snyders are among those with a good attitude right now, but like others, they too want their power back on. Tonight, CP&L says it hopes to have 90% of its customers still without power back online by Friday, the rest by early next week. But it's clear some areas may take even longer. The out-of-town crews are planning to be here for 2 to 3 weeks. Carolyn?
Wow, still a long way to go. Peter, who's paying the bills for all of this?
Well, right now it's CP&L, but down the road it could be customers. Company officials say they don't want to even discuss higher rates right now, but the bill for all this work will not be small. It's going to have to come from somewhere. Right now, of course, the priority is getting people power again, no matter what the cost.
I'm sure it is. Peter, thanks for that report. Bob?
Well, here's some good news for people in Orange County. The Orange Water and Sewer Authority says it's safe to drink the water there now. People there have been living under a boiling water advisory since Friday, but now power has returned to the water treatment plant. Still, they're asking people to conserve water because the county's sewer system isn't fully operational yet. And for those of us without vital supplies, help is available. To help you get through it all, we've compiled a list of shelters, feeding sites, and other services. Fox 22's Liz Hamill joins us now live from a shelter in Garner. Liz?
Good evening, Bob. Garner High School is just one of many shelters that are open tonight in the Triangle, and people are really relieved to have a place to stay tonight. There's about 80 people spending the night, and earlier they fed hundreds. And the Red Cross wanted me to pass on, if you have not had a hot meal yet, to please come down here because they have plenty of food. Now we're going to go ahead and give you a list of all the shelters that are open in the area, plus an additional list of emergency relief efforts. Now that list is long, so you may want to go ahead and grab a pen and a piece of paper. As long as you don't have power, the Red Cross says it will continue to keep shelters open. Since Friday, hundreds have taken advantage of facilities scattered throughout the Triangle.
We're serving 3 meals a day here right now. And when the food runs out, we've got peanut butter.
In Wake County, Garner High School has been housing dozens of folks in need. They also have set up a free phone bank courtesy of Bell South. In Cumberland County, a shelter is open at Southview High School and Hope Mills. In Durham, shelters are open at Hillside High and Southern High School. In Johnston County, Smithfield Selma Senior High. And for those of you who haven't yet had a hot shower, don't despair. Millbrook High School is opening their facilities. All they ask is that you bring your own towel, shampoo, and soap. Since Hurricane Fran unleashed its fury over the Triangle, most folks haven't had a hot meal. Thanks to Whitaker Mill Senior Center in Raleigh, David Foy will be getting his first since Thursday.
But for this evening, the Red Cross has furnished meals here, and I'm here to get a hot, nourishing meal.
In Raleigh, the American Red Cross has set up the following feeding sites: the Whitaker Mill Senior Center, East Wake Senior Center in Wendell, the American Red Cross in Cary, Aversboro Baptist Church in Garner, and Northern Wake Senior Center in Wake Forest. In Raleigh this afternoon, people waited on foot and in cars for an ice shipment at Millbrook High School. The American Red Cross in Raleigh says it's expecting an 80,000-pound shipment from the federal government. When it arrives, it will be distributed to Wake County fire departments. Now, I guess the good news out of all of this, if there can be any good news, is that people are pitching in and helping each other out. But unfortunately, the worst isn't over yet. If you have any additional questions on relief efforts, emergency officials ask that you call your county emergency operations center. Bob?
Liz, am I correct in assuming there probably aren't any hotel rooms available in the area?
No, unfortunately, there are not. We talked with Raleigh's Convention and Visitors Bureau, and they report that there are no rooms available in Wake County. Now, that is tonight, tomorrow night, and Wednesday night, Bob.
Okay, thank you very much, Liz. We appreciate your report. And of course, if you're watching us tonight and you do have power, but you have friends who don't, you might want to give them a call and let them know about some of the information we passed along to you there. Kelly?
Yeah, Bob, it certainly is good to see people pulling together and helping one another out, keeping hope alive. Well, along the coast, many people are getting their first look at damaged homes. Authorities opened the bridge onto Wrightsville Beach for residents. Only people who can prove they live there are allowed to cross. Fran, of course, did major damage in the Wilmington area. The mayor of Wrightsville Beach says nearly every home there suffered some kind of damage.
Well, people from Curie Beach are also getting their first look at Fran's aftermath. Most homes there suffered some structural damage. People who escaped Fran's worst are counting themselves lucky. The Hansons lost only their front deck.
I didn't know what to expect. I did see pictures on TV thinking the worst, but we were very, very fortunate.
They're still without water, power, and sewer service, and town leaders say it could be several more days before that's all restored. Tonight, searchers have given up their efforts to find people reported missing on Topsail Island. 2 search teams went through the island house by house. They had heard that 5 people who stayed on the island were unaccounted for. But the searchers combing the island found nothing. Tonight, state officials say they don't believe anyone is missing.
Many beachfront property owners are still uncertain about how much damage Fran inflicted on their homes, but the Highway Patrol has come to their rescue. State troopers left the highway to patrol by air. Fox 22's Lena McElwain has that story.
In some areas, people are seeing their childhood homes no longer there. There are only some stilts left or some stumps. In some places, there are only a few shingles gone.
The Highway Patrol's aerial team flew from New River Inlet to Curie Beach, videotaping the damage. Hundreds of property owners, evacuees, and curious onlookers flocked to the viewing.
Just watched a new inlet right there.
For many people still living without electricity, these were the first images they've seen of the devastation.
I've seen people cheer when they saw that their home was still standing, and some people coming out in tears. Good grief.
Jean and Bob McCamey have come to watch the video with their fingers crossed, hoping their 30-year-old cottage is still standing.
That was our best chance to see, because I doubt we're going to be able to get on the island before the end of the week, if then.
If I see those 3 canals, I can spot the house.
Betty Holt is searching for her daughter's vacation home and praying for 2 doses of good fortune. Their home here in Raleigh was not damaged.
No power, no phone, but we're all intact and the house is not damaged, so no cars damaged. So we were lucky.
Before Fran hit, many people were focusing their efforts on securing their beach homes, never realizing the hurricane was also headed this way.
And we thought we were coming back to Raleigh to safety, but 1:30 in the morning we had a tree come in through our house, and so it was really very scary.
But today they found out their beach home was spared. The tape is just a quick glimpse of the extensive damage, but this view from the air has given many homeowners a peace of mind. In Raleigh, Lena McElwain, Fox 22 10 o'clock news.
And because of the overwhelming response from property owners, the video will be shown again Wednesday night at 7 p.m. in the Troop C headquarters on Blue Ridge Road.
Governor Hunt says state workers who are non-essential can take the rest of the week off, but he says he doesn't want them to stay home and rest.
I want them to stay home and work. I want to urge them to organize work crews. Let's organize ourselves and let's be out tomorrow morning. We've got 4 more days this week, and Saturday makes 5, and Sunday, if necessary, makes 6. And let's go as far as we can trying to clean up our communities and help our neighbors.
He went so far as to call this Helping Family and Neighbor Week, because at times like this, it takes more than government agencies to clean up. It takes everyone.
Farmers are also feeling the effect of Fran's fury. Today, the Secretary of Agriculture took a look at the impact and talked about providing relief. Fox 22's Rod Coffey reports.
U.S. Agriculture Secretary Dan Glickman and a small army of state officials board a military helicopter to get a bird's-eye view of the destruction caused by Hurricane Fran.
I can tell you that given the fact that you had over 1 million people who lost power, I can imagine the damage here is going to be extremely significant.
And there's a real good working relationship going on out there.
The delegation from D.C. met military at Fort Bragg, who joined forces to help thousands of people affected by Fran.
We have been, in fact, providing generators, engineers to clear roads, water, and other items that we have that are available to the local community and to the emergency operations centers.
We're going to have a big loss.
Rural areas also get hit hard. From flooding to flattened trees, tobacco, cotton, and cornfields suffered damage in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
I'm 74 years old, and it's been the roughest farming year I remember in a long time.
We got severe damage.
Do you?
The better corn, which had the bigger ear, was flat. It was 6 foot tall, and I didn't see a rabbit running across it.
Yeah.
A close-up view of a leveled cornfield in Cumberland County showed the Secretary what he already knew. North Carolina's in bad shape and in need of a lot of help.
In a presidentially declared disaster area, that does trigger low-interest emergency loans, which is perhaps the most significant thing that farmers would be eligible for.
State Agriculture Commissioner Secretary Jim Graham is pushing for aid to help livestock producers as well as farms.
We just need some help. We don't want to give me, but we just need some help.
Yeah. Glickman says he will personally ask Congress to find the funds to help North Carolina recover from Fran. In Cumberland County, Rod Coffey, Fox 22, 10 o'clock news.
Fran's fury is felt tonight up the East Coast. President Clinton got a first-hand look at flooding problems along the Potomac River in and around the nation's capital. The president took a helicopter tour of the area. The Potomac crested early today, 7 feet above flood stage. Commuter trains in the area were canceled and traffic backed up all around the Washington area.
Coming up, the rest of the day's big news. It's the programming parents don't want to see. A new call to stop the violence.
And it's the pictures some people can't bear to watch. More hurricane coverage coming up.
Weather-wise, we have 2 possibly very wet days to get through here in the Triangle area, and then some nice dry fall-like weather for this weekend. But we do have our eyes on another possible tropical system headed our way. Don't go away. Forecast coming up soon.
Looking to say and has some tips on eating safely in tonight's Focus on Health.
Bob and Carolyn, aside from the damage Fran caused to homes, cars, and landscapes, she has the power to play havoc with our health. A lack of power means the potential for food poisoning is high. The state and county are stepping in to protect consumers, and there are things you can do to make sure food poisoning doesn't make a bad situation worse at your house. We're all accustomed to shopping at our local grocery stores, secure in the fact that if it's on the shelf, it's fresh. But since Fran whipped the power out of the Triangle, it's become necessary for the state agriculture department to send out their inspectors. Every retail establishment that sells food in affected areas will be visited.
We'll be checking temperature on the grocery products, on the frozen and on the refrigerated foods to make sure that they've not exceeded safe levels. We'll also be checking for water damage to any of these products. If water has gotten on the package or packaging, it will not be available for sale.
As for restaurants, each county has its own team of inspectors in charge of checking on those establishments. Any food not fit to eat must be disposed of. Now, what about in your own home? If you or someone you know is without power, dietitians say there are some things you can buy that are nutritious and non-perishable.
Peanut butter and jelly comes in handy.
And really craving meat or chicken, as long as you can keep it cold until you can grill it, well, you'll be all right. I'm Nancy Byrne with tonight's Focus on Health.
Hey, Sally, I guess both Carolinas.
Engineers says Monday's flooding downstream in Johnston County is not directly attributable to the water release at Falls Dam. The State Division of Water Resources agrees, saying swollen tributaries along the way are more at fault.
It's going to be level where it is now, and pretty much so, yes.
But that's no consolation to these people. They live in the Rivermill condominiums at the foot of Falls Dam. Many have already moved to higher ground. Many don't know what to think. Do you feel better after what Lloyd told you right there?
Well, you don't know what to believe because they told us the same thing yesterday. They said the water would not rise up anymore. They told us they wouldn't release but so much, and now they're releasing more. And we don't know what to believe.
And that was Mark Roberts reporting. As of 4 o'clock this afternoon, it's the highest volume of water ever released from the Falls Lake Dam into the Neuse River.
Now, power companies in our area
Say I'm going to North Carolina, I don't know when I'll be back.
But we've been trying to stay on our feet for some time now, and just when we thought we had it good, if this flood hits us, we'll probably have to file for bankrupt.
In Wake County, Eric Curry for News Channel 11.
As the newly released torrent moves downstream, so will the floods. That means towns like Smithfield and Goldsboro will face new headaches in the week ahead. And they've already got their hands full. The news crested several feet above flood stages at Smithfield last weekend. The water treatment plant was flooded, so folks all over Johnston County have been having to boil their water. The Neuse is still out of its banks and may rise again by the end of this week. And the bad news just keeps coming. Heavy rains this afternoon and evening are once again raising river.
Not going to leak. I mean,
Of course, we don't have many other places.
At Falls Lake, the Neuse River, and elsewhere. Bill Ray has details now. Bill?
Yeah, I've got the details on the elsewhere. The Deep River Basin in the northern part of Moore and Lee counties have received up to 4 to 5 inches of rain this afternoon. And on the current warning map, we have flash flood warnings for northern Moore and Lee.
Line at this number, 1-800.
White lights, all right. Fire.
462-90.
Boy, look at the radar. Heavy showers and storms continue just to sit right over us, dropping heavy amounts of rain. Look at that cell that dropped all the rain around that warning area. Heavy rains now in the Neuse River Valley and eastern.
Joins us live from the State Fairgrounds, where a tent city is now in place.
Investigators believe appliances.
And Pam, they have the makeshift city because of all the room in the hotel rooms with all the people in town. They don't have enough room for the workers that are coming into town to help clean up and relieve in the relief efforts because of Hurricane Fran. Now, the people that are putting up these tents are the Florida National Guard. They were out here earlier putting up all the tents, but now, because of the rain, they have stopped. Now, when you talk about the Florida National Guard, you're talking about a group of people that has plenty of experience when it comes to dealing with the big storm. Helping a hurricane is nothing new to the Florida.
To wave down help on the highway.
Look at the situation in hardest hit heart of Carolina counties with the latest information available from state emergency management teams. In Wake County, 4,000 homes are uninhabitable. 375 businesses are damaged. A marina and some 24 boats are underwater at Falls Lake. In Durham County, damage is widespread, but there has been a lot of progress clearing up the main streets, and most folks have their power back. In Johnston County, almost 30 roads are still impassable, and continued flooding is expected. Residents are being advised to boil all the water they use. Most people have power back.
If you have a generator, you should plug your appliances directly.
Their original goal, as he said, was
1,000 homes were destroyed and 350 others very seriously damaged. Water has become a pressing problem. People are warned to boil their drinking water and conserve as much as possible. And they're still working hard to get things back to normal in the Sandhills as well. Greg Barnes had
to get through Fran's damage. The Salvation Army.
Run those down real quick. We just got an up
to Cumberland County Farms and Crops at $22 million.
Commission sent its chainsaw.
Today, crews began reducing the old oak tree at Fayetteville's Haymont United Methodist Church to sawdust and logs. The landmark, long recognized as the oldest oak tree in North Carolina, fell victim to Hurricane Fran. Some members had hoped to resurrect some of the wood.
Some people have suggested making small wooden crosses to be presented to the children at Easter time.
All these new ones that are coming in even tomorrow. One of the problems now is finding the equipment.
These were just
aren't so lucky. Their historic sanctuary may be felled by a falling tree that splintered rafters and beams and buckled the church walls. Repairs will be expensive.
Money-wise, you're looking at anywhere from...
Constantly running us material out here. They're trying to get material from anywhere they possibly can, I think, on the East Coast.
Now, we just saw Sue's story about being sure all of your appliances are turned off so that when the power comes...
So I just...
Still without power, using candles for light, and that can be a major problem.
Right, Jim. Some smoke detectors. If everybody does that with the shape the system is in right now, it could...
Enforcements that rolled in to help. The troops, like these Fort Bragg engineers, came armed with gloves and front loaders and trucks to help clear debris from the streets.
We have equipment, especially for relief with trees. We have the chainsaws, the loaders, and the dump trucks.
Say that, and I can certainly see why they say it, because there are a lot of people out there still without power, but they're not kidding when they say there's just an incredible amount of damage. I mean, you go through some neighborhoods and every single line is knocked down. There's not much they can do to speed it up, really. You're just going to have to.
They're working hard. They're trying.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, John. Brooke?
Flooding from the Neuse River is for...
That could definitely cause a mess.
People living along the Neuse River are leaving their homes. About a dozen roads in the county are closed because they're either completely submerged or they're threatened by high water. Many of the people affected by this were just getting things in order after going through Hurricane Fran. Now they have to deal with the flooding.
Talking about hurricane, then the tornadoes and everything being torn down, lights for days, no lights. And then finally yesterday at 11 o'clock we got our lights on, and then bam, yesterday afternoon the water comes in. We don't have nothing. We're out of everything now.
The noose is expected to crest tomorrow at 23 feet. That's 9 feet above flood level.
Chapel Hill is hoping that one more day of cleanup
back in business. Well, most major Triangle streets have reopened as well, the most notable exception being Raleigh's Wade Avenue. Part of that heavily traveled thoroughfare washed out during the storm. And the news isn't good. Parts of Wade from Faircloth Street to Overland Road may remain shut down for several weeks. For a lot of people,
workers trying to get back to a normal pickup schedule, but
I have no power, we have no telephones, no coffee. I'd give anything for a cup of coffee.
using other states' trucks to help with
stay here until they feed everyone who needs.
Customers still don't have it. And at last word, almost 20,000 Duke Power customers in Durham were still going without 9,000 more in Chapel Hill. But the Triangle looks like paradise tonight compared to
it cannot be any longer.
Of Topsail Island are closed.
Session, but tomorrow there'll only be classes
to Fayetteville.
And Rick Gall joins us now from our Fayetteville newsroom.
For 15-minute checks of their property. Property damage on Topsail is astounding. Roads are out, all power, water, sewer, and most phone service is out. There is no projected date for getting any of it back. Amid all the big picture reporting of Fran's aftermath, we are seeing some heart-wrenching stories of personal loss. The families of
has now been restored to almost all,
mourning their deaths.
Consider themselves lucky. Not one of their 30 trees blew down.
Power outages are the town's biggest problem, like so many other places. In fact, the police department, town hall, and more than 80% of the town's residents are out of power. Some businesses are improvising, like this photography studio that's working outside for now.
A do or die situation.
They say they feel angry and lucky, and wait till you see what they've lost.
We are taking a tour of what was once the perfect home.
This is where the tree came through the roof. And all our new cabinets we just had done with the painters just left 2 or 3 days ago.
He means 2 or 3 days before Fran. The Allens worked on this Orange County farmhouse all summer, renovating from top to bottom before moving in last Thursday. Hours later, the hurricane hit.
That would be considered.
Remain closed tomorrow. Closed schools, Cumberland County.
In our brand new kitchen where we just had all the cabinets installed, and there was a waterfall.
For the Granville County schools.
Even with all of that ongoing cleanup, evidence of Hurricane Fran is still all around. Scenes like this are becoming almost normal. A tour of Durham damage is coming up.
And then later on, how to cope with the disaster.
The monster. It destroyed their home, destroyed their dreams. They don't know what they're going to do. They don't even know if they can still live in this house.
As they say, we
Second question when we come back. Plus, we'll let you know how all these days off.
Here's Oscars.
It looked more than drunk.
Hanging out with Hercules and Tom Cruise on Nicole's love scenes.
We'll work it through.
And though the Allens have plenty of family to help lighten their load, only one thought can lighten their hearts.
Afterwards, when I thought about it, we're just thankful to God that we were saved. And we weren't really meant to leave this earth yet because we were in the middle of the trees falling, and we feel very, very thankful for that.
In Orange County, Jennifer Silverman, News Channel 11.
Damage to this house in Durham. The havoc created by Eno River when Fran blew through town. It's just one more house to add to the long, long list qualifying for federal assistance, compensation for damaged cars, and a flooded basement.
Durham City Hall felt the Fran winds as well. The second floor was damaged the most. Some ceiling tiles came down and some awnings were ripped off. A lot of damage as well to computers and some other equipment there. All told, about $500,000 worth of damage.
Also in Durham, Duke Gardens wasn't spared from Fran either. The hurricane ravaged through the gardens, destroying some rare plants and trees there. Workers tried today to salvage some of the damaged greenery. The damage to homes, cars, all kinds of personal property from Fran have wrought a lot of hardship on Americans in several.
Aliman of Raleigh, Bailey Elementary, and Baptist Temple School.
Crunchy Parmesan topping.
Calvary Christian
today to explain how the federal government can help.
On Friday, FEMA Director James Lee Witt surveyed the damage with Governor Jim Hunt. Well, now he's back to say what the federal government can do to help.
The president yesterday was concerned about North Carolina. He was concerned about making sure that you had all the resources available to you that we could possibly put here.
Of course, one of the most sought-after resources is money. So far, FEMA's paid for 100% of the state's recovery costs from this weekend, and checks are already in the mail to help individual victims recover from Fran.
Now, when it comes to that individual aid, Director Witt says the best thing storm victims can do is call FEMA's 800 number, because there's so many different types of federal aid out there. Victims could qualify for aid but not know it unless they call.
Get back to me.
Lee County is on a 1-hour delay.
People scared? I hope to God they are, because if they're
also closed tomorrow, Noose Baptist
request. Now, Director Witt admits FEMA cannot fix every problem Fran created, but it's a start.
Our programs do not make people whole. Our programs are designed to help people to get started back.
From the extent of Fran's damage, well, even with federal help, that will be a long process. Nola Woods, NBC 17 News, Raleigh.
If you have any kind of damage, you can call FEMA at 1-800-462-9029. Got a gift to show you that is going to make a whole lot of people happy.
That's right. Big bucks from a local company. Our state's food bank just got a lot richer.
Gate 4, if we should
delay for students.
Wake Christian Academy closed tomorrow. Wake County schools closed through Thursday with an optional teacher workday. Warren County schools on a 2-hour delay.
Wayne County schools on a 2-hour delay. Greenwood Middle closed. Hartwood Montessori School closed tomorrow. Well, some late afternoon thunderstorms delivered just what this area doesn't need right now, more rain.
Greg Fischel's coming up next on the 6 o'clock news with the latest on another wet blow from Mother Nature.
We will simulcast the entire hour on Mix 101.5 FM.
If you think you need help, call FEMA at this number.
Plus, if you're in need of a meal, the Red Cross is serving lunch and dinner. So if you're listening to us on the radio, just stay tuned.
We have the list of school closings for you now.
WRAL TV5. Coverage you can count on.
I love you. Yes, I do.
Staples gives you close to that special someone.
Warnings until 8. This may be the most serious coming up. A river flood warning has been issued for the Haw and the Cape Fear rivers from Bynum south downstream, including the cities of Moncure, Lillington, Irwin to near Fayetteville. That includes the counties of Chatham, Lee, Harnett, and Cumberland. At Moncure, the Cape Fear River is forecast to crest 10 feet over flood stage tonight. This is a major flood along the Haw and Cape Fear rivers. It is a life-threatening situation, and people along the rivers should take immediate precautions now to protect life and property along those two rivers. All right, let's go to the 5-degree scoreboard as if anybody cares. Day 11. Right now we're at 72, the humidity at 97%, pressure rising, southwest winds at 5, almost an inch of additional rain at the airport, more to come. A look at the lake levels. We'll give you a second to look at those. They're outrageous, and they continue to inch up, especially at Carr Lake. All right, temperatures around the southeast, lots of 70s where it's rain.
We'll get a visit from this front, which is number 2 tonight, moving across the Midwest.
From Cumberland County schools, they will.
Between the two, the
storms very, very abundant right now. Temperatures generally hanging in the 70s, 84 degrees over in Fayetteville, 73 down in Wilmington, the latest. This is the close-up radar, which shows the flooding problems that we have. Now, we just got an update on the flash flood warnings that are still in effect, and they do include Moore and Lee County.
But the most vicious thunderstorm activity.
Wake County and
Bynum County continues until 8 o'clock, and then northern Moore.
By the end of this loop, there's almost a continuous line of thunderstorms.
8 o'clock tonight, so means flooding is imminent in this area. And this is a good map to show you why. What we're seeing here is what we call training. That showers and thunderstorms developing, and just like a train going over the same track. So these areas are continuing to get more and more rain.
Franklin and Nash and eastern Wake County around Zebulon, all just moving very slowly to the northeast, dumping large amounts of rain. You see that line stretches down into the... We're going to be a better focusing mechanism today for rain right over our area, and sure enough, all the air coming together and forced up, and we're getting picked on them.
have been kind of traveling one after the other over the same area, what we call training, and that tends to produce a whole lot of rain in one location, because really you're not just seeing one thunderstorm, you see one go through, next one come in right behind it, just the same area keeps getting hit time and time again. Right along the coast, we're in better shape now. From Wilmington to Myrtle to Charleston, things appear to be quieting down. Look at this rain in Florida, from Ocala to Orlando, down to about the Tampa, Sarasota area. And over here in Okaloosa County, we've had reports of 3 inches of rain in 3 hours. That'll cause some flooding problems. So expect the heavy downpours. It'd be a slow drive on 75 here, down into the Tampa area. It doesn't look like you'll have too many breaks from the rain. Heavy downpours, typically in Florida you get a heavy downpour and then you drive out of it for a storm. It's possibly heavy with a lot of wind, of course, depending on what happens with Hortense. So that's a little question mark here. Otherwise, isolated thunderstorms in the west. And after a couple of nice days, things turn kind of gray in the northwest come Thursday, and actually looks like that rain will stretch down into northern California and last through the upcoming weekend.
How to avoid becoming a hurricane statistic. Plus, the Federal Emergency Management Agency is stepping in with assistance. See how they're helping out. And cleaning up from the storm takes more than a strong back. It takes a lot of patience. We'll show you how to keep your cool. I'm Bob Vernon. Join Carolyn Clifford and me for all the days mean they weren't working. Plus, federal aid is rolling into the area. We'll show you some of the help you can get from FEMA tonight on the Fox 22.
Jinx and twice the laughs. With 2 Simpson episodes every weekday.
Weeknights at 6 and 6:30 on Fox 22.
Good evening, I'm Carolyn Clifford. Tonight's big story, the hurricane is long gone, but the problems are still rising.
I'm Lori Geary at the Falls Lake Dam. We'll show you what this may mean to those of you living along the Neuse River.
I'm Bob Vernon, also coming up.
I'm Mark Coffey in Wake County. The governor gave state employees a week off to recover from Hurricane Fran, and some say they're working harder than ever. I'll have that story coming up.
And after a short lull, another southern church is struck by fire. Stick around. The Fox 22 10 o'clock news starts right now.
Now, Bob Vernon, Carolyn Clifford, Rick Sullivan with sports, and meteorologist Steve Swenkowski. North Carolina's award-winning primetime newscast, the Fox 22 10 o'clock news.
Tuesday night, another round of heavy rain makes for more trouble in the Triangle. Floodwaters rising again tonight after heavy thunderstorms move in.
It's an unwelcome sight for many people already trying to recover from Hurricane Fran. Here's the very latest. More flooding is reported across the area. A line of storms is dumping lots of rain right on top of us. Thousands of people are still without power, and tonight's storms are slowing efforts to restore electricity. Meantime, the death toll from Hurricane Fran goes up again. Now 21 deaths in North Carolina are blamed on the storm, and another major hurricane is moving this way. Hortense did major damage on Puerto Rico today. Here at home, the skies darken quickly, not from a hurricane, just some big thunderstorms.
That's right. The heavy rain has raised the risk of more flooding as well. Waters rose tonight in Crabtree Creek and on the Beltline. Wake County and Nash counties are under flash flood warnings until midnight. The rain we've been getting has no place to go, and the ground already saturated by Fran. So streams and creeks already at high levels are rising again tonight. Fox 22's Peter Cook joins us live with the latest on tonight's flooding. Peter, where are you and what's happening?
Well, Bob, I'm at one of the worst situations tonight. I'm on Interstate 64 here, just a short distance from Zebulon and Wendell. And if you look behind me, that's not a pond, that's the median. You can see cars having real troubles getting through here. There have been a number of vehicles that actually were disabled this evening because of all the water on the roadways. There's state troopers all over the place here. Traffic right now heading out here on Interstate 64 is down to 1 lane because of this trouble with the water. Cars are being allowed through, but it is definitely very dangerous out here. Things may be improving because the rain has stopped somewhat, but it's definitely treacherous travel all over eastern Wake County, where some 4 to 5 inches of rain fell earlier this evening. In Nash County, 5 to 7 inches of rain fell. So seriously, some real serious problems on the roadways this evening. Wanted to mention also that here in eastern Wake County, there are 3 roads that are completely impassable. They are Riley Hill Road, Pierce's Road, and Jack Mitchell Road. 64, 264, and North Carolina 96 are all considered extremely hazardous this evening by the Highway Patrol. So you are allowed on those roadways, but as you can see from all the water on the road here, things are very, very dangerous, and they could still pose problems for commuters in the morning. So we're keeping an eye on. As you can see, real trouble on the roadways, and if you can avoid going out on the road this evening, that's probably your best bet.
Indeed. Thank you, Peter, for that live report. So, will the rain clear up anytime soon, or should we brace for more serious flooding?
For that answer, let's turn now to meteorologist Steve Swinkowski. Steve, what can you tell us?
Radar picture, which we're going to show you in a couple of minutes, is showing that the showers are beginning to diminish, and that is the good news. In the meantime, we want to cover some of the, well, let's say the 3 hardest hit areas right now in the area. Now, if your river is not included in this list of 3, it doesn't mean you're not seeing any flooding. It just means it's not one of the moderate or major sources of flooding throughout the region. First of all, the lower Roanoke River at Scotland Neck. Flood stage there is at 28 feet. Earlier today, the river was at 26 feet. And the forecast is for it to rise to 31 feet by tomorrow, and that will cause some flooding of pasture land there. The Tar River at Rocky Mount, flood stage is 15 feet there. The river was at 21.5 feet earlier this morning. The crest is only expected to be another foot or maybe a half foot more. That was earlier today at about 22 feet. And of course, at Rocky Mount, when it gets to be 21 feet or better, they start to have flooding in some of the basements in Rocky Mount. And then this is the major flooding that we see down at Goldsboro along the Neuse River. Flood stage at 14 feet there. The forecast is for it to crest sometime tomorrow at about 24 feet. Earlier today, the river was at 21.5 feet. This is major flooding according to the National Weather Service. And at Goldsboro, if it gets to be 25 feet, then wells and septic tanks will start to overflow and flood, which of course could pose a health hazard. We'll take a look at that radar picture coming up soon. Don't go away. Bob?
Okay, thank you, Steve. Well, people living along the Neuse River in Wake County are watching out for floodwaters tonight as well, but not because of tonight's storms necessarily. Fox 22's Lori Geary joins us live from the newsroom to explain. Lori?
Well, Bob, they're worried about Falls Lake. Now, the Army Corps of Engineers just started to release extra water from the lake into the Neuse River. And many folks living close to the water are having to pay the price now, so many others won't have to down the road. Folks who live at River Mill are watching their backyard very closely. The raging Neuse River threatens to take over their building.
We are on the downstairs, but there's about 6 more feet that the water can rise before we'll be in imminent danger.
Others aren't taking any chances. They're packing up and moving out.
I'm ready to move. No, I'm staying. It's a beautiful area out here. It's really been well preserved and it's kind of quiet. It's a beautiful, beautiful area, so I hate to see any damage that might come.
Falls Lake is already 11 feet above normal, and that's forcing the Army Corps of Engineers to release 50 times their normal amount of water from the dam. While that may not be comforting to folks who live along the Neuse River, engineers say they're doing this now to prevent a major disaster in the future.
We're preparing for future rains and another hurricane possibly, and so we're trying to get the lake down as fast as possible.
And they're watching it closely. Engineers say they know folks along the floodplain are suffering now, but it'll be worth it.
It is a control release, and it possibly is flooding some small amount downstream, but it could be a lot worse if we couldn't control it.
Even if it gets to that point, the folks at River Mill still feel pretty safe.
You never think of something like this happening, and I still think we're going to be okay. If we're not, we'll get out of here. The volunteer fire department up the road's keeping a pretty good eye on us.
And tonight, we check with the Emergency Operations Center here in Raleigh. They are suggesting to some folks in Wake and Wayne counties along the Neuse to move out if they are concerned about river levels. But at this point, it's not bad enough to force them out. And we should mention that tonight, crews are stacking sandbags around generators at the waste treatment plant in Goldsboro, just in case, Bob.
Now, Lori, are we accurate in saying that overall the engineers are cautiously optimistic?
Yeah, they are. They tell me even with the rains we've had tonight, everything is running smoothly. And to give you an example, during the hurricane on Friday morning, the Neuse River in Clayton was at 19 feet. Tonight, it's at 12 feet. So if you weren't flooded out by the hurricane, they say you should be in good shape for now.
Let's hope so. Thank you, Lori. Carolyn?
Well, tonight's thunderstorms have slowed efforts to restore power to people still in the dark. Here are the latest numbers on outages. CP&L says 144,000 customers remain in the dark tonight. About half of those are from the Triangle north to the Virginia line. Duke Power has 31,000 customers offline, most of those in Durham. Wake Electric has 4,700 people without power. Some of those in Nightdale will be without power for several more days. And Piedmont Electric has 4,500 customers without power, most of those in Orange County.
Well, some businesses are pitching in to help Fran's victims. Cisco Systems gave $50,000 to the Food Bank of North Carolina. The money will...
Governor's words are already in action.
The major portion of calls that I've received since I've been here this morning have been from state workers.
Volunteers at the Emergency Management Center are helping people help people.
Call the 800 number.
They're taking names of state workers who want to volunteer and sending them to damage around the state.
From organizing the cleanup effort to actually moving debris from local streets and yards, state employees are working long, hard hours outside of the office.
We're taking down trees, clearing property, delivering generators when we can find them, delivering ice, water.
That's the kind of effort folks at the Thomas Ann Nursery School need. 60 trees fell on the 6-acre site, and 185 kids are depending on somebody to clean it up.
We've served a lot of state employees over the years, and this shows that they're going to give something back to us, and we appreciate that because we're doing the best we can, but we only have so many hands to use, and it means a lot to us for them to volunteer.
Employees say they're glad they can help.
I think it was a good idea because, first of all, I'm wondering what the productivity level would have been with us sitting in the offices worrying about what had to be done.
The cleanup effort is off to a good start, but workers say it's far from finished. State workers are encouraged to continue putting in time. In Wake County, Rod Coffey, Fox 22, 10 o'clock news.
State employees aren't alone in the cleanup effort. Prison inmates are on the job also. 100 prisoners are working at Wake County school buildings. They're picking up tree limbs and other debris left by Fran. They're also raking the grounds. The inmates spent the day at 6 different schools in Wake County. Tonight, National Guard troops from Florida are here to help with relief efforts. They built a tent city at the state fairgrounds. It's a place for relief workers to call home during their stay here in the Triangle. Space is tight because hotel rooms in town are booked full for most of the week. The tent city will hold up to 500 relief workers.
Fran's effects are being felt all over the state tonight. State parks and lakes throughout our area are closed because of storm damage. At Umstead Park, trees are blown over, cabins destroyed, phone and power lines down. Park workers also report extensive damage at Falls, Jordan, and Carr Lakes.
We are advising people to please stay off of those lakes. We consider them hazardous at this time. There are underwater structures that they won't be able to see, and there are floating debris all over those lakes. And the sad part is we think it's going to take quite a long time for us to recover and get facilities open again.
Rangers say it'll probably take several weeks to get the parks ready to open again.
If you own beach property, you'll get another chance to get a look at their homes on videotape. Last night, we told you about aerial footage of coastal damage shot by the Highway Patrol. They held a screening for property owners, but the demand to see the video is simply overwhelming. So the patrol is putting the tape on Raleigh's community TV channel. It'll show 4 times a day on Raleigh Cable, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. President Clinton is coming to get a first-hand look at storm damage here. He'll arrive in the Tar Heel State Saturday. The exact schedule for his visit is not set just yet.
The cleanup is also underway tonight around the nation's capital. The floodwaters at the Potomac River have gone down, but they left mud and debris behind on many roads. Many people near the Capitol are boiling water to drink. The state of Virginia declared a federal disaster area. All the damage done by Hurricane Fran after she moved out of North Carolina.
The latest hurricane on the horizon does major damage in Puerto Rico. Hurricane Hortense battered the island with high winds and dumped more than 18 inches of rain. So far, 8 people are dead, and that number could rise as searchers reach areas now cut off by high water. Nearly the whole island is without power, water, and phone service tonight. The storm is packing 75-mile-per-hour winds and moving northwest toward the Dominican Republic. Steve will have the latest on Hortense a little later on in weather.
More news is on the way. It's the challenge of the week, keeping your patience, and it's as tough as clearing tree limbs. Our Spotlight report looks at hurricane stress.
Plus, stiff backs and tired muscles. There are plenty to go around these days. We'll show you how to clean up the hurricane mess without getting hurt. It's all ahead on the Fox 22 10 o'clock news.
Let's go, guys.
Now that Sprint is the official telecommunications. You're watching the Fox 22 10 o'clock news.
About here.
Gambling that Fran would fade by CP&L crews and back.
We bring you the latest information first. The Fox 22 10 o'clock news.
In South Dade County, Miami area, locally 5 inches of rain. That'll inundate you, huh? Slow you down on the highway. Southeast Arizona still getting hit with some heavy rain, and those are mountains too, so some flash flooding is a possibility. Up until recently, there was a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for Detroit in southeastern lower Michigan. That's been canceled. The rough weather has moved off to the east. There's a slight chance of another thunder shower tonight before some drier air moves in. But I'll tell you, rainfall totals here in the United States are nothing like we've seen them in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands over the last couple of days because of Hurricane Hortense. It's leaving the islands, but it's heading this way.
Already know, but this is a scene that's all too familiar around town. Here's the situation. Last Thursday night, we got hit with the worst natural disaster in half a century. We got 9.5 inches rain in 6 hours and winds that were even stronger when Hazel hit here in 1954. The good part is that loss of life appears to be minimal. The only thing we can't replace is human life, and we've been spared that so far. But property damage is substantial. There are lots of precious towering oaks down around town, and a lot of them are on your houses. And I know a lot of you, like me, are without power. But just be patient. We've got thousands of people from out of town and out of state who are in helping CP&L get power restored. I just talked to the governor. He's sending another 1,000 National Guardsmen to Raleigh and Wake County today. In addition, we're getting maintenance crews from the Department of Transportation in the western part of the state that was not as hard hit. We've got to get all these trees up from out of the street so the kids can get back on the school buses and get back to school, and so the utility trucks can get in and get your power restored. Right now, I think it's still about 1/3 of Raleigh is without power. CP&L tells me they hope to get it back on by Friday. Schools will probably be closed until at least Friday, and they may be out all week. The gratifying thing is that throughout Raleigh, in neighborhoods, people are really pulling together and helping one another. In my neighborhood Saturday, I worked side by side people I had never met or hardly knew, and we got a lot of work done. But there's a lot of work left to be done, and I just ask you to be patient. I know that many of you are without power, but if you can just hold on to the end of the week, we'll get to you. I just want to ask all of you to do 3 things. One, as I said, be patient. The cavalry is coming. Second, be of good cheer and good humor. We've endured worse, and our forebears have endured a lot worse. And lastly, if you feel an onslaught of self-pity coming, look for somebody whose condition is worse off than your own and help them out. You'll both feel better. I'm proud to say that we've not had an increase in crime in the Raleigh area. Along with the police chief and city administration, I decided not to call for a curfew during this because I thought it would be an added inconvenience to our citizens. We've had no incidences reported of looting or vandalism, and so our confidence in you and our public safety personnel was justified. But please remain vigilant. Look after each other. We hope that we'll get through this. We hope that years from now we'll look back on the way that the people of Raleigh responded to this adversity and say that this was one of Raleigh's finest moments. I'm Mayor Tom Fetzer. I'm proud of the way that you've endured this storm. I'm proud of the way that our city has pulled together as one to help each other out. And in a few more days, hopefully we'll have the worst of this behind us. We still need your help. Later this week, I'll be calling for a citywide volunteer cleanup effort to get out in the streets and neighborhoods and help the National Guard and the city work crews and the DOT work crews get all this refuse and debris up and get it out of our neighborhoods so traffic can start moving again and the school buses can start moving again. I look forward to working side by side with you as we get through the next few days. Thank you.
There's help available if you need it. Learn what volunteer and government agencies can offer on this FEMA Recovery Brief. In times of disaster, Americans reach out to help those in need through volunteer efforts paid for by donations and through government programs funded by taxpayer dollars. In the first hours and days after a disaster, it's the volunteer agencies who are most in evidence, working with local emergency services and moving quickly to make sure that people have basic necessities of life: food and water, clothing, a warm, dry place to sleep, comfort, and a reassuring smile. America's lead volunteer agency is the American Red Cross, which is chartered by Congress to provide disaster relief. The Red Cross operates food programs and emergency shelters wherever disasters strike. But many other groups also cooperate to make emergency assistance available. Here are just a few whose volunteers step in to meet immediate needs. But before you decide to just throw things away, stop, because there is a lot you can do to preserve your treasures and bring them back to life. Preservation expert Lawrence Rieger explains how, starting with how you should ensure your own health and safety.
We want to be there after people have gotten back into their homes.
Good evening, I'm Bob Vernon. Tonight's big story: how much longer hurricane victims try to keep their patients in the dark.
I'm Carolyn Clifford. Also coming up,
Cutting out a class of the day to help cut down trees. UNC students help clean up after the storm. I'm Rod Coffey in Chapel Hill. I'll have that story coming up.
Wake County schools are still recovering from the storm, but what kind of conditions will kids be going back to? I'm Suzanne Robinson. Find out on my Family Smart Report coming up.
and don't look now, but Hurricane Hortense is picking up steam. Stick around. Your 10 o'clock news starts right now. Wednesday night, the slow rebuilding process after Hurricane Fran. Some people remain in the dark, but there is an end in sight. Electric companies are making big progress in restoring power.
Still, though, thousands of people will spend another night without power. Here's the latest on the aftermath of Hurricane Fran. Tonight's rains have caused more street flooding in Raleigh, and once again, the rain is slowing efforts to restore power and phone service to people who lost it in the storm. Federal and state officials called for more resources, people and equipment to join the cleanup effort today. And a hidden danger is slowly emerging in Fran's aftermath. Sewage backing up in some subdivisions is causing a health risk. Every day, more workers hit the street, picking up debris and replacing power and phone lines.
But still, nearly a week later, some neighborhoods remain a mess. No phones, no electricity, no cable TV. Our Lori Geary talked with some people who are still going without tonight. Lori, how are they holding up?
Well, Caroline, you might be surprised, but the folks we talked to tonight are doing quite well. We're in one of the harder hit areas of Raleigh along Ridge Road. All around me, you've got down trees, down power lines, smashed cars, and damaged homes. And while residents are still being patient, well, the state realizes that more help is needed. McHugh Brown and his family get an early Christmas present. 6 days and counting, they've been without power. He says he underestimated the power of the storm until he got out and drove around.
It's so massive and so many people just, you don't know until you get into these areas that these downbursts of wind went through and just knocked down every tree and every pole.
Drive across town, watch out for the down power lines, and you find a welcome sight in the Country Club Hills area.
It seems that so far that they're gradually coming to us, but they're right up here about 2 blocks from us now.
Almost a week has gone by and you still see streets like this all over the triangle. Down trees, down power lines, even transformers still litter the streets. You can imagine the frustration. Many folks are wondering why it's taking so long.
It's frustrating. I know how frustrating it can be. But we need to do it safely so that we aren't injuring or killing other people in the process.
Hagley says it may not be obvious, but folks from all across the Southeast have come to North Carolina to offer help. State leaders are asking for your patience because Fran may even be worse than Hugo when it comes to cleanup.
Fran was a much broader hurricane. She was not quite as intense as Hugo, but was much broader in her destruction. So the damage has been spread out over a much wider area, and that compounds that recovery process.
For folks across the triangle and the eastern part of the state, patience may wear thin, but state leaders are urging folks to hang in there and be thankful.
It has been a real education, yeah. And we're very thankful that we didn't have anybody hurt. That's the big thing. My wife's garden that she took years and years to cultivate is
in pretty bad shape, but it'll give her something to do for the next 15 years.
And it may seem that's how long it's going to take just to get the triangle back to normal. Now, the governor has called on 1,000 more National Guard troops to come in and help out, and we're told they're going into schools to try to get them back in shape so they can reopen, Carolyn.
Well, Lori, what other help is the state asking for? Do we know?
Well, the governor is calling now on church groups and civics groups. He's actually declared Saturday a cleanup work day so folks can get together in their communities to try to start to rebuild. Here alone in Wake County, they're going to need some extra help. New numbers out tonight from the American Red Cross. More than 100 homes destroyed. Here in Wake County alone, more than 2,000 have had some sort of damage.
Lucky not too many died in the destruction. Lori, thanks for that live report. Bob?
Well, federal emergency officials say the recovery process is going well. FEMA teams are working all around North Carolina to coordinate relief efforts. The head of FEMA visited the state yesterday. He says power outages remain the biggest problem.
The big problem in North Carolina right now, of course, is finishing up getting the power back on, and met with the power companies yesterday, and it looks like that they're going to be able to, by the end of the week, have most of the power back on to the people. Also, they're trying to get the schools reopened, and a big major problem of that is the power to the schools, but also getting the debris out of the way.
FEMA is offering financial help to people and businesses damaged by the storm. A little later on, we'll show you how to get in touch with FEMA if you need help.
The good news tonight, the darkness is turning into light. Tonight, the area's biggest power companies say most customers should have electricity again by Friday. Here are the latest numbers. CP&L has a little more than 100,000 people without power tonight. The company says 98% of its customers should have power by Sunday night. Duke Power reports 5,800 people without electricity, most in Durham. They should be back on later this week. Wake Electric has less than 3,000 customers without power. They expect to restore service to them by Friday. And Piedmont Electric says 1,900 of its customers are in the dark, most of those in Orange County.
Well, just look outside and you know Fran was big. How big? FEMA says in terms of damage, it could be the top 1 or 2 storms ever in the country. That assessment wouldn't bring any argument from the city crews and National Guardsmen going house to house, cutting a path through the fallen trees.
We're trying to get the roadways clear so that the CP&L and phone companies can get in and put back power and phones to the residents around here.
The destruction is enormous. Just in the city of Raleigh, Mayor Fetcher estimates that there's 30,000 truckloads of debris to haul away. Now, that's the same amount normally collected in 18 months.
Tonight, more National Guard troops have joined the cleanup efforts. Governor Jim Hunt called the troops today. 1,000 more Guard members are now working on disaster relief, and more than 1,000 new trucks are now available to help with the effort. The new forces will first go to work on schools so that students can go back to class. Then after that, Governor Hunt says he wants every tree pulled off every house and building. Troops from Fort Bragg are also pitching in to help with the cleanup effort in Fayetteville. A 500-man force from the post is assisting Cumberland County's waste management team. They're focusing on cleaning up school bus routes so the schools can reopen. Soldiers are also working in Hope Mills as well as Harnett, Johnston, and Moore counties. Many of those troops are providing generators and water to storm victims.
College students are also pitching in to clean things up. No classes met this afternoon in Chapel Hill, so students and faculty could clean up the campus. Fox 22's Rod Coffey was there.
Oh, yes. Giving it the old college try, students and faculty at UNC Chapel Hill take the afternoon off to clean up after Hurricane Fran.
Especially North Campus was hit very bad. There were huge trees over here. Also in mid-campus, there were lots of trees knocked down, blocking, pathways and stuff like that.
It's a study in hard work. Mountains of debris carried away by upper and lower classmen alike.
With as many hands and strong bodies as we have today, I think it'll go a long way to helping us get through this mess.
This cleanup effort looks like one big giant school project. In addition to the free labor, you've got social science, engineering, and civic lessons all wrapped up in one helpful workshop.
I think education is more about what you learn, more than what you learn in the classroom. Education's about the things you learn outside, sense of community that's developed. What the people have learned today may not be sociology, but what they have learned is about community and about working together.
Get away!
Physically moving trees was anything but an academic effort, and the broad-based benefits of working together paid off.
and it's good to see students interact like this. A lot of the organizations on campus, that's what they strive for. They strive for students interacting with the faculty. And to see us come together so fast, so quickly out here, it's really good.
And I've done some stupid stuff since I've been here, but I never would have imagined that.
With more work, the cleanup will quickly be complete, but the impact of the storm will linger on.
But it's going to take a long time for the psychological effect to wear off, and that's really one of the reasons for our being out here today. It's a kind of psychological catharsis.
There was no extra credit given for today's efforts, but the educational value was easy to see. UNC resumes its normal class schedules tomorrow. In Chapel Hill, Rod Coffey, Fox 22, 10 o'clock news.
Hurricane Fran is still wreaking havoc on people's schedules. Even hurricane experts are feeling the effects. Wilmington was supposed to host a national conference on hurricane preparedness this week, but because of Fran, organizers had to postpone it. They haven't set a makeup date yet, but they say it will be after the hurricane season is long gone. Other storm experts have just finished getting a close-up look at damage along the Carolina coast. A Clemson University engineer says much of the damage done by Fran resulted from shoddy construction. Engineers say the storm offers a lesson on how to build safer houses and buildings. They say the solution can be as simple as using more nails to attach shingles.
Tonight, the next Atlantic hurricane is gaining strength. Hurricane Hortense blew past the Dominican Republic. There and in Puerto Rico, 14 people are dead. More than 2 million are without power. Hortense now has winds of up to 110 miles an hour. The storm is expected to turn to the north, hopefully keeping it away from the Carolina coast. Steve Swimkowski will have more on the storm a little bit later on in the weather.
And when the news continues, they offer a stunning view and hours of relaxation, but are beachfront homes worth the risk? Our Spotlight segment investigates the cost of it all.
And there's a new hurricane danger on the rise, and it's as close as your backyard. We'll show you what it is when the Fox 22 10 o'clock news returns.
There is good news in the forecast. Things are going to get better around here before they get worse. That is the good news, and we'll have the complete details coming up soon. Forecast right here on the Fox.
For tonight's big story, Hurricane Fran is gone, but her remnants are rising.
I'm Peter Cook in Rocky Mount, where the only way to get around some parts of town is by boat. We'll have the story.
I'm Bob Vernon. Also coming up,
our streets are covered with debris, and now crews have to work overtime to clean up the mess. I'm Lena McElwain, and I'll have that story coming up.
And don't let this primate make a monkey out of you at the beach. Stick around. The 10 o'clock news starts right now.
Now, Bob Vernon to 10 o'clock news.
Thursday night, floodwaters rise in the wake of Hurricane Fran. Mother Nature's still not finished tonight.
It's almost exactly a week since Hurricane Fran hit the Tar Heel State, and people across the area continue to battle the elements. Fox 22's Peter Cook spent much of the evening in Rocky Mount, where record floodwaters fill the streets.
It's really devastated this neighborhood.
Kurt Barnes isn't headed fishing, he's headed home. He's among a handful of die-hard homeowners who are trying to hold off a record-high Tar River in Rocky Mount. Some have already lost the fight.
We had enough problem with the damage from the hurricane, and then this flooding has just sort of doubled the problem. I've lived down here for 17 years and been around this river all my life, and I've never seen the water come up as quick as it has.
We wanted to show you 701 Poplar Street, the Sandlin residence. The cats are still here on the porch, but things are a little bit different once you get out here. This is the new family car.
The house is all right on the inside so far. Not too good when you come out. You either get wet or get in the boat.
There should be some 15 feet between this train and the tar. Thursday, the river's running at 23 feet. Flood stage is 15. That's left Melton's barbecue with catfish not on the menu, but in the dining room. And this isn't the only Rocky Mountain neighborhood dunked by Mother Nature.
Everything's just disaster. I had to rent a motel to live in, and, you know, just first time I ever seen like this. I wasn't expecting this. It's devastating.
The good news is no one has been hurt, and the river appears to have crested, leaving Barnes and others hoping they can soon navigate their way home on foot instead of by boat. In Rocky Mount, Peter Cook, Fox 22, 10 o'clock news.
The flooding is causing environmental concerns this evening. Garbage and pollutants normally on dry land are now in the river, and residents say snakes are everywhere.
More flooding, this time in Wayne County. Governor Hunt took to the air to check out the damage, and he saw just why people are knee-deep in trouble. The governor also found out how folks are turning to the state and to each other for help. Fox 22's Mark Modern has more.
This is the worst flooding that I have seen in Wayne County.
Governor Hunt searches from the air to see the damage on the ground. Just outside of Goldsboro is a community filled with water and worry. The Neuse River is flooding again.
And the waters are continuing to rise. And many of these people there are going to have more damage from the flooding than they had from the hurricane.
State workers also travel by ground. In Johnston County, people give thanks to the National Guard.
Even in tragedies, you always look for the little miracles, you know, and how the community pulls together. And ours has done a wonderful job.
While people praise the help, it's the guardsmen who give thanks for the hospitality.
A lady rolled up and had some homemade sausage biscuits and some homemade jelly biscuits. And then about an hour after that, they rolled up with some grilled chicken. And I just told them, please, I can't get the guys working. They're getting too fat and too full, and just move them on.
Whether it's the guard or the inmates, the governor says the key to cleanup is to help neighbors in need.
There's a great spirit of helping in North Carolina, and we're seeing it at its best right now, and I just hope that'll carry on until we get through all of this.
And this Saturday, the governor wants people to go out and clean up groups. He says hurricanes may knock people off their feet, but neighbors can pick each other back up and put the property back together one piece at a time. In Johnston County, Mark Modern, Fox 22, 10 o'clock news.
Federal relief officials are opening 4 disaster recovery centers here in North Carolina. FEMA is opening the facilities in Raleigh, Wilmington, Jacksonville, and Burgaw. They will stay open 7 days a week, but FEMA says storm victims should call for assistance first. That number is on your screen. It's 1-8. Stay closed tomorrow because of storm damage. Wake County and Durham public schools still can't open. In Durham County, school officials are making sure all the roads are cleared of debris and electrical wires before they allow school buses back on the streets.
There's one major concern is the safety of the students with the wires being down, the students being out, and possibly not knowing where these wires are live or if they're not.
And we'll have a complete list of school closings a little later in the newscast.
Well, neighborhoods throughout the Triangle have at least one thing in common. Piles of chopped up trees, limbs, and debris line the roadsides, and folks are well, they're just waiting for all the mess to be hauled away. It seems overwhelming, but cleanup crews are tackling the task. Fox 22's Lena McElwain has more.
Durham city workers have brought out the heavy artillery to battle the monstrous piles of logs, branches, and debris. It's a back-breaking, painstaking job. But these men have put their comfort aside and put their lives on hold to get the job done.
Double, triple duty. It's been real hard, especially working from 12 hours a day, 7 to 7. Nobody has time to do anything. Come here to go to work, go home, eat, sleep, come back to work.
For many of these workers, their job description does not normally include cleaning up yard waste in neighborhoods. But workers from different departments are pitching in to help clean up the mess.
From the time this happened, we've been working around the clock, so to say. And it's been hard. It has. And if I don't want to ever see anything like this else again.
This isn't the first time some of these men have had to help clean up after a hurricane. Crews from here went to Florida to help with Hurricane Andrew, but they never imagined a disaster like this would hit home.
Act of nature, something we have to put up with.
Delphi Hinton's truck is also working overtime. The truck carries 6 tons of debris, usually a full day's work. These days, the truck is packed to capacity in less than 3 hours. 7 days down and many more to go, but these workers won't stop until the last fragments of Fran's destruction are cleared away.
We come down the street, we try to clean up as much as we can for them to make people feel a little bit better.
In Durham, Lena McElwain, Fox 22, 10 o'clock news.
Durham city officials say it could take several weeks to haul away all of that debris.
The city of Raleigh is organizing a weekend storm cleanup effort. Mayor Tom Fetzer has announced plans for Operation Fran. That stands for Fran Recovery Assistance for Neighbors. People who want to help should bring rakes, shovels, gloves, and other landscape equipment to one of the city's 5 meeting points.
This is an effort whereby neighbors can go into yards and cut up small debris and move it to the street to restore some semblance of order and normalcy and neatness to Raleigh's neighborhoods.
And if you'd like to help, show up this weekend at 8:30 in the morning or 1:30 in the afternoon. Volunteers are meeting at Optimist Park, Millbrook Exchange, Chavis Center, Pullen Aquatic Center, and Glen Eden Pilot Park. Now, if you have any questions, you're asked to call 890-3160. Kids in the capital city show their appreciation of hurricane cleanup workers. These kids spent the day at the Greenwood Community Center. They wrote notes and made banners to say thank you to people clearing the streets and restoring power. It's part of a program sponsored by Raleigh Parks and Recreation. The program offers a place to go for kids kept out of school by storm damage.
Remember the story of the 87-year-old woman being bilked out of $18,000 to remove 2 trees after the storm? Lawmen say this man, Marshall Everett, is responsible for the scam. The Edgecombe County resident is charged with a felony, and the elderly woman got her money back. Now, this story has a happy ending, but there is a lesson here.
If you have a question as to the value of the service, call our Consumer Protection Division or the Better Business Bureau or an expert in the field. And the lesson to those providing the service is if you commit a fraud and try to rip people off, we're going to investigate you, and we're going to arrest you, and we're going to try you for the crime.
The Attorney General's office is getting 200 calls a day about price gouging related to storm cleanup, including a $50,000 estimate today to remove 1 tree. The SBI is investigating.
Unbelievable. Well, tonight, other storm victims are waiting to get the money they need to make repairs. But as you can imagine, insurance companies are struggling to cope with the flood of claims. Fox 22's Rod Coffey shows us how one company is hoping to speed up the process.
You want to look around behind the house? Can you see back there?
It's a familiar scene around town. Homeowners with insurance agents surveying the damage from Hurricane Fran.
Here, and the limbs punched down through and protruded down through the ceiling. And
the aftermath of the storm has caused one big insurance mess. Damage costs are through the roof. People want repair work done now, but many are realistic about the wait.
We look at it and we say we'll have everything repaired and be living sort of normal again by Thanksgiving or Christmas. That's our goal.
So you've got my phone number, and once you get the estimate, okay, if you got any questions, you want to give us a call back.
The speed of the hurricane caused damage. Now, the speed of processing the insurance claims becomes important in the recovery. That's why people here at the State Farm Disaster Relief Center are working in overdrive to try to get people their money as fast as they can.
If we're able to contact you by telephone and to determine the amount of damage, we can have a check in the mail to you that day.
900 State Farm workers from around the country are taking claims and hopefully taking the red tape out of the process.
The National Catastrophe Team members are people that their full-time job is to work on catastrophes, and they may be here for that entire 6 months working on claims for Fran.
Because of Fran, State Farm expects to pay out nearly $150 million. But the real progress will be measured by those waiting for the repairs to be done.
We're not out of the woods yet, but we've turned a corner. The insurance people have been here. We're getting the tree off. We carried all our furniture out, cleaned it up, and we're drying things out. And now we can really assess what the damage is and go ahead and get the repairs made.
The degree of damage is directly related to how soon claims are processed. A hole in your roof puts you at the top of the list. In Raleigh, Rod Coffey, Fox 22, 10 o'clock news.
Still no power for thousands of people a week after Fran blew through. The company with the biggest problem tonight is CP&L. More than 40,000 people remain in the dark tonight, but the company says most of its customers should be back online by tomorrow night. Duke Power is almost back to normal. They say only about 2,000 customers remain without power. Wake Electric has 1,000 people still in the dark, and Piedmont Electric has only 300 people without power, mostly in Orange County. Statewide, companies say it could be the middle of next week before everyone who lost power gets it back.
Hurricane Hortense is growing even stronger in the Atlantic, but the storm will apparently miss the Carolina coast. The major hurricane blew past the Dominican Republic yesterday. The storm did some damage there and left 2 people dead. The overall death toll from Hortense now stands at 16. Forecasters say the storm could bring heavy surf to the southeastern coast tomorrow, but that should be the extent of North Carolina's involvement with Hortense.
Tonight, police are investigating a murder in Durham's Hillside Park. Detectives say the shooting happened after a confrontation involving...
This is News Channel 11 at 6.
We have seen a lot of astounding pictures in the wake of Hurricane Fran, folks, but this is perhaps one of the most surprising. Old rivals Jim Hunt and Jesse Helms finding common ground.
National Guard troops pour out of the state fairgrounds. Their only mission, to clean up the Triangle streets. Good evening and thanks for joining us.
WRAL has team coverage tonight as North Carolina recovers from Fran's fury. You may be surprised to find out who's taking advantage of a first-come, first-served generator policy sponsored by the National Guard. We'll show you why underground power lines aren't necessarily the answer.
Accelerate the cleanup at schools and in neighborhoods everywhere. President
They're all over the Triangle streets. Mark Roberts is in Raleigh with more on these street sweeps. Mark?
Well, Deborah, if the numbers make you feel better, they certainly got the numbers out here. 3,500 DOT workers cleaning up the streets statewide. 6,700 private contractors out trying to clean up after Fran. Now, here's some of the 250 Raleigh city workers that are out cleaning up streets. We're on Stone Street in 5 Points. The word is, if you still have a pile of debris on your street, be patient. There are different places.
Jesse Helms in front of a...
Yes, felony charges
and state legislation meant to help storm victims.
Traffic, haul it away. Carolyn Urban and Sons are glad to see the crews. They also feel for those who haven't seen this welcome sight.
Nerves at this point. Everyone wants to get back to normal, get the children back in school, get the roads clear, you know, start opening up the...
This situation started with an...
Actually, their biggest problem is in the backyard. 22 big trees down. The DOT can't help them with that. The man who's sending out road crews statewide says if there's a pile of debris in your front yard, get used to it.
They're going to have to live with that material until we can get to it. I don't think there's any way it's going to be picked up in a hurry. It's going to take some time to get around to do that. They're going to have to develop some patience.
Fran fills. Areas specially cleared for storm debris are popping up all over. The debris clearers have a sobering message.
Everybody's getting frustrated. This is just the beginning of a cleanup. It takes...
Expressing concern about our plight.
Relief from Hurricane Fran will get a boost tomorrow.
This time from President Clinton. NBC 17's Michelle Charlesworth is at the fairgrounds. That is where the president is going to be tomorrow. Michelle?
Keeps the crews able to get in there. Look at back behind me here. The pile of debris up off the street right next to the sidewalk. Deborah and David, that's the way to do it.
Mark, we've gotten a lot of people who called in here and said, who do...
There's a long way to go down this road.
One of these choppers tomorrow who have just finished a tour with the governor, checking out our damage from the sky.
This is operational headquarters.
And that's why the president's coming here.
That's why the president's coming here. This is where it's all happening from.
This is the National Guard's head shed, the Jim Graham building.
If you get skipped and it gets to be a...
his time and be...
everybody works together. There's no... Be patient. I know it's tough, but that's just the way it's going to have to be right now, Deborah.
Yeah, and if they're like most of us, they'll be easier to find a street without debris than to find one with it.
I think you're right, David.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Well, 20 teams of National Guard troops rolled out of the state fairgrounds this morning with one thing on their minds. Their battle plan is to assault all the storm debris that Fran dumped on schools across the area. Commanders say they have 106 schools.
Fran's arrival here, there is still much to see. From above, Raleigh's 5 Points neighborhood and the historic Oakwood community look like model railroad layouts ravaged by an unruly child. In Cary, trees remain on homes, and where trees have been removed, blue tarps cover gaping holes in roof lines.
Now, Cisneros' tour wasn't limited to the Triangle. He also headed to the coast to see damage there and meet with officials in New Hanover County. Now, we did not get a chance to talk to him after he flew around. That is when it really would have been interesting.
Oh, yeah, but I'm sure he got...
is coming back on in those hard...
Secretary Henry Cisneros joined the governor in opening...
It is plugged in, but nearly 29,000 customers are still in the dark. Duke Power says it has less than 100 houses to service, and most of them should be back online by nightfall.
And nearly half of CP&L's powerless customers in Raleigh, Cary, and
State Farm. Now, they've got a team that's specifically assigned to handling disasters.
Help victims can get.
They have a problem with disaster housing.
Their tax credit.
Associated with State Farm here.
Neighborhoods have street lights, but no power lines above.
But all the rain has caused big problems for people served by underground electric service. Lines and splices corrode quickly in water-soaked earth when no current is passing.
I thought it would be easier to take care of because we wouldn't have the trees falling on it.
Repairs could not be made till feeder lines were fixed.
Overhead, you can locate the problem and identify your problem. Underground, we have to use equipment to locate it, and we have to dig it up and fix it.
Divining rods have often been used to find water underground. These special crews are using an electrical divining rod to find electricity where there is none.
We have a truck that's set up with a DC current that we put on the line, and it'll go down the line until it gets to the point that it's broken, and then it makes a discharge.
CP&L's Ron Gerganis probes the ground listening with earphones for a thumping noise.
And we listen for that with the electronic equipment, and then we narrow it down and get within 2 or 3 feet of it, and then we come in and excavate, replace the splice. We're good to go.
When the fix is made, neighborhoods are happy. Tom Lawrence, WRAL TV5 News, Raleigh.
We understand why they're cheering.
When you walk by them, you'll see that they're from all over the United States.
Let's say next week or the week after, that will just cause more. Most influential.
Help getting back on level ground. Waited it out in the sun today for some help. They're hoping to get emergency food stamps to buy food. In favor.
But we serve the same state, don't we?
After touring the damaged areas, Helms joined the governor in meeting and thanking Red Cross volunteers, shaking the hands that have fed 285,000 people just this week. The two managed to put politics aside today long enough to thank one of the state's largest manufacturers in making a hefty contribution to those who have really helped out this week, the American Red Cross.
My pleasure to announce that Philip Morris is willing to make a one
to meet the demand. A long line at the Durham County
chapter.
A $100,000 check to the Carolina Red Cross.
Needs ranging from trying to make sure their food stamps.
The food stamps are for people who don't normally qualify.
That's being drawn up this very moment on Capitol Hill. Legislation that would provide debris removal, emergency loans, assistance to farmers, and also temporary housing, a package that very well could total between $400 and $900 million. But it's clear today federal aid alone won't solve all of our problems.
We've come a long way. It's a long way down the road.
30. Some roofers are finding themselves in the middle of all the action as trees and limbs are cleared away. In fact, workers in Wayne County
helping each other, caring about each other.
All the way from Goldsboro to the southern beaches. Of course, they have
of Carolina. And flooding continues to exacerbate the problem along some of eastern North Carolina's rivers. This man that you're going to see here was fishing right in the middle of a Wayne County neighborhood covered by the rising waters of the Neuse. But some residents are furious, blaming their problems on that record release of water from Falls Lake in Wake County.
I don't know why the man at the dam up in Raleigh turned the water down on us down here, because they said it was more important to let the water come down here and hurt 1,000 people than 1,000,000 people in Raleigh. What's wrong? Ain't our homes just as good as their homes up there?
Even basic goods have been hard to come by this past week. Today, Georgia Pacific delivered a tractor trailer.
Never could.
And if you want, are used for public health and safety first. But as Stuart Watson found, after that, it's first come, first serve.
Without heat and air, Marvin Meadows tobacco rots in the barn.
Cleveland County spent this week in Wrightsville Beach.
Explains you better get started before
firefighters could go and clean up their own homes and neighborhoods. The mess along the New Hanover coast includes crumpled beach houses, wrecked boats, and relocated sand dunes. It goes without saying, the recovery from Hurricane Fran will continue to be a big story for days and weeks to come. But the most stunning pictures and stories have come during this week after, when many people were without power and without television. So if you missed some of the coverage of Fran and the aftermath, here's your chance to catch up. Watch a News Channel 11 special report, Hurricane Fran, Storm of the Century, airing tomorrow afternoon at 2, Sunday morning at 11:30.
Generators on our first come, first served basis.
Saturday night at 11:35 p.m.
The landscaping all being hauled off to places like this. Many are private.
This past week and a half, but the 96 vote is nonetheless.
Who needs a generator for a life-threatening situation has gone without it just to save some tobacco.
Even opening temporary locations depending on the need. Here's some good advice from Kozar if you want to pay him a visit.
When it's wet, try not to come out here. You might get stuck, you might not. I mean, bag it in tight, keep it going, keep moving and stuff. Don't stop, don't park in the road. There's a lot.
Nobody really knows just how much is out there, but it's a good bet this place will be filled up in no time. Bill Alexander, NBC 17 News, Durham.
Now, as it turns out, some counties will collect debris curbs.
Democratic State Senate candidate Alan Wellens of Smithfield
ask them to respond to your concerns. Tonight, we're looking at issues you think are important, and one of the big ones on your mind is crime.
968-2796, and in Wake County, call 856-6186.
One of the
County schools makeup day for
Tarmac area in Goldsboro, where many residents have lost their homes to the flood waters. To make matters worse, only a few have flood insurance. In the meantime, residents get their meals from the Red Cross and wait patiently to salvage their belongings.
We have iced tea, hot lunches, and snacks over at the Red Cross truck if anyone needs them.
Marmac residents say the flooding hasn't been this bad in 30 years. Flooding in Raleigh was bad as well, devastating for these car dealerships. Hurricane Fran claimed hundreds of cars there, nearly 800 cars flooded by Fran, mostly from lots on Wake Forest Road. Now these cars are headed for the salvage yard.
The power is back on for the most part in Cumberland County.
Football knowledge against the crack. WRAL sports staff, it's all ahead.
I'm Jim Payne.
Cases in rural parts of the county. But in Wake County, some places are going.
I think there's some gun.
It's happening in one community. Tonight, you'll hear the gripe. Plus, a fairgrounds full of National Guardsmen may mean changing of weekend plans tonight on WRAL's 11 o'clock news.
It's common for it to take time to get things settled with your insurance adjuster. People with the most serious.
We'll be talking about the issues then beginning next.
Your adjuster. And if you can't get through,
call Terminix if you want to.
421-3535.
This is a Cadillac commercial.
In warmer climates, this would be roofing felt.
325246 BB&T. You can call collect at area code 704-529-8450. When NBC 17 returns, the effects of Hurricane Fran still reach far and wide.
And now another effect, competitors coming together to rebuild after the devastation. And later on, the man responsible for a 7-day standoff has been charged with murder.
Well, looking off to the east this evening in our 3D perspective, some showers here, but they're moving away. That's good news. And looking to the west, breaks in the clouds. That's coming our way. Looks great for a good weekend. We'll have the forecast coming up. Partly cloudy, 64 tonight.
Good food for people, plenty of water. We've been getting tons and tons of water.
People in need of the item should contact Fayetteville Urban Ministries or the Salvation Army.
A Triangle radio station is trying to help people hit hardest by Fran. Sunny 93.9 is holding a fundraiser at the Crabtree Valley Mall. It started just a few minutes ago and will run through 9 o'clock tonight. There's a booth on the first floor of the mall where people can drop donations.
The former district.
I'm Lena McElwain. If you're battling floodwaters, you may need some extra protection. I'll have that story coming up.
In the eye of the storm, they're heard but not seen. I'm Matt Lundy, and Carrie will give you a look at some ham operators in the state of North Carolina coming up next.
And taking a big dive to try and save a life. Stick around. The Fox 22 10 o'clock news starts right now.
You're watching Fox 22, North Carolina's award-winning primetime newscast. The Fox 22 10 o'clock news.
Friday night, clear skies above, but still too much water on the ground. Floodwaters in Wayne County are creating big problems.
Now, the water is destroying homes and property, and it's also bringing some pesky visitors and health hazards. Fox 22's Lena McElwain has tonight's big story.
The overflowing river has saturated the small town of Seven Springs. 7 out of 10 homes are completely flooded, and the murky water is just inches from entering other homes. Many residents are now living in shelters. Some are floating through the streets by boat, and others are dragging their feet, praying the waters will recede.
It's been rising steadily a half inch all day today.
It rose at the rate of 1 inch per hour yesterday, all day and night.
The past 48 hours have been especially tough for firemen, sheriff deputies, and the rescue crew. They've been helping residents move furniture and valuable belongings to safety, and they've been patrolling nonstop. The flooding isn't the only problem. They've been dealing with snakes, dead fish, rats, and worms that are swimming around in the water.
We did have an eel swimming around out here today, and I understand there's a fishing contest, and I didn't have my hook and line, so I missed him.
Snakes and rodents aren't the only concerns. These floodwaters are infested with germs that could cause people to get sick.
Tetanus is the main concern here. Tetanus lives in just about anything, especially dirt and dust, and it's very dangerous, and so we're trying to protect the public.
The Wayne County Health Department and the Volunteer Rescue Squad have spent the day administering tetanus shots. The shots can protect folks from the germs, but not the unwanted visitors.
When you go back in your homes that's been flooded, you know, be careful your snake, the snakes that may be there. We have a lot of war moccasins in this area. They may be hiding somewhere you don't know because they want to get to a dry place also.
In Seven Springs, Lena McElwain, Fox 22 10 o'clock news.
Health workers say if you have been exposed to floodwaters and experience any symptoms such as rigid muscles, lockjaw, or seizures, seek medical attention immediately.
Floodwaters may have receded in other areas. Still, folks all over the Triangle continue to struggle in Fran's aftermath. Many outlying areas still have no electricity and may not have any for several more days. Fox 22's Lori Geary shows you how some people are holding up.
Pine tree just falling there which way, bam, bam. I'm just thankful nobody got hurt.
You're looking at one of the hardest hit areas in Harnett County. 5 out of 8 trailer homes demolished.
They said Hazel was tough, but I don't know, Fran done her job.
And now Willis Bryant has quite a job ahead of him. He hasn't touched a thing since Fran ripped apart his trailer park. He has no idea how he's going to pay for the cleanup.
Well, right now, I don't know. I think I got about probably $10,000 in the bank to work for 30 years to save. And I don't think that's going to cover it. I haven't really got out and inquired for any help, really.
FEMA will hold a briefing on Saturday. Here at the Emergency Operations Center, these folks have been helping people all week.
We got some delays on some of the ice and water that was being shipped. Right now, it's the power being out is what's hurting us a lot. The people don't have no, they've lost a lot of their foods in their freezers and all. We're trying to feed them. We got feeding sites set up.
It may have been slow going to start, but power crews in these rural areas are making progress. Here in Harnett County, at one point, 90% of the people had no electricity, but now 15% are going without.
You got a lot more ground to cover. You got a lot more traveling time, a lot of more rural area where a lot more trees are a problem.
So the people have to have a little more patience.
And we'll get this mess out of here sometime. Is all I know. I just hope everybody gets power and everything works out okay.
For now, Bryant will worry about his own problems and, like the rest of Harnett County, hope for the best. In Harnett County, Lori Geary, Fox 22, 10 o'clock news.
The storm left many schools in the area damaged. As the cleanup goes on tonight, the extent of that damage is becoming clear. Statewide, school damage will cost nearly $25 million to repair. In Wake County alone, the toll tops $1 million, but the hardest hit system is one that can least afford it. Johnston County leaders report $8 million in damage to schools there.
There is some good news tonight. Major progress toward restoring electric service to people who lost it in the storm. Only CP&L reports significant numbers of people still in the dark. They have nearly 29,000 people without power tonight. Still, that's down from more than 700,000 at the height of the storm. Duke Power has only a few scattered outages tonight. Wake Electric has less than 100 customers in the dark. Piedmont Electric says it has just 11 customers still without power.
A pair of political opposites turn up at a Red Cross Relief Center in Garner. The aftermath of Hurricane Fran bringing together Senator Jesse Helms and Governor Jim Hunt. Both on hand as the Philip Morris Company presents a $100,000 check to the North Carolina Red Cross. Senator Helms encouraging other businesses to help during those tough times for the state.
It left me with a lump in my throat and a heartache. I think you know what I mean because you've already had that experience. Governor, one has to see the devastation as you have to believe it.
The senator and governor also met with Red Cross workers and volunteers to thank them for their endless hours of support. Raleigh city leaders are calling for a day of prayer for storm victims. The mayor and religious leaders are setting aside this Sunday as a day of prayer and thanksgiving. Fetzer says unity and faith enable the community to weather the storm.
We have pulled together as one, neighbor and neighbor, neighborhood and neighborhood, black and white, Jew and Christian, Democrat and Republican. And that is the most important thing to be thankful for.
Mayor Fetzer says Fran will help bring the city closer together.
The federal government opens the doors on the first of several relief centers around the state. Fox 22's Rod Coffey has that story.
Finance their mortgage if they
Workers at the latest Hurricane Fran relief effort got a visit.
Durham tomorrow.
Raleigh St. Raphael's Church is opening its doors this weekend for hurricane victims, but this relief center isn't what you think. This one involves rides, entertainment, and plenty of food. St. Raphael's is
phone calls soliciting donations on behalf of storm victims. The caller claims to be with the Knightdale Fire Department, but the fire department isn't running a relief effort. In fact, no Wake County fire departments are collecting money for storm relief. So if you get a fundraising call from someone soliciting donation who claims to be with the fire department, you should report it to that fire department. They'll then pass the information on to the Attorney General's office. Well, following Hurricane Fran, you see pickup crews, safety crews, and utility crews all over the state. Tonight, Fox 22's Matt Lundy gives us a look at some volunteers who play an important role behind the scenes.
They're heard, but not seen. State ham radio operators like Gary Pierce of Cary.
Anytime there's a natural disaster type of emergency, communications are disrupted. Telephone circuits can go down, even cellular circuits can go down or be overloaded. What we provide is a backup to state agencies, to the Red Cross, to emergency facilities.
Pierce is one of just 12,000 amateur radio operators in the state, riding out Hurricane Fran's arrival and aftermath. And while Hurricane Fran managed to knock out power to many television and radio stations, ham operators, well, they managed to stay on the air. They had to provide an important communications link for safety crews and also for the Red Cross so that they could coordinate feeding kitchens with feeding trucks around the state. Expensive radio equipment, but inexpensive batteries and generators keep the ham radio operators on the air.
It was almost like a lifeline to be able to hear the traffic going back and forth and to know that even though lines were down, power was out, that the hams were already in place and that communications were being passed back and forth.
This time around, providing emergency communications for the Weather Service and the city of Cary when Fran knocked out communications.
We're kind of unsung heroes, I think. The nice thing about this is it's a hobby that we can take to another level when needed to help out in the community.
Maybe out of sight and out of mind, but ham operators say they're ready to turn their hobby into a helping hand when severe weather comes knocking again. In Cary, Matt Lundy, Fox 22, 10 o'clock news.
Tonight, Durham police are on the scene of a standoff that started as a domestic dispute.
I'm Jim Payne. Next at 11, it's supposed to be free, but for some, there's a price tag. We're there live.
I'm Deborah Morgan. Also tonight, Fran's fury claims more victims downstream. Flooding could make it worse.
And I'm Greg Fishel, meteorological Shangri-La this weekend. All the details.
American troops are heading to the Persian Gulf.
Greg Fishel and Tom Suter on WRAL's 11 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. The U.S. presence in the Middle East is growing. Raleigh.
Robert Carver joins us live from the Hedingham subdivision. Robert, what's the problem there?
Well, Jim, you know, the city of Raleigh will pick up your debris if it's on the curb and it's cut into 6-foot sections. The trouble is that it may take the city a while to get to all the neighborhoods. That's why folks here in Hedingham have kind of taken the situation into their own hands.
Stand in the sand. You can't put one in hotels and restaurants. Fox 22's Mark Modern shows you why in tonight's big story.
Wrightsville Beach may be open again, but it's the cash registers that are still closed. You see, the picture becomes clear when you step away from the water.
I thought that maybe it would have been cleared up by now, but it seemed like most of the houses still have debris in front of them.
Tourists take in this view, debris and damage piled up on sidewalks and streets. Merchants want the gawkers to go home.
They get in the way. They need to all just go back where they came from. And there's nothing to do but come look at people's trash. And this is our heartache, and they come down and get in it.
It's 3.5 feet of water that's in the Kennedy family seafood place. Most restaurants are still closed. Joseph isn't sure when his will open again.
Being it's a family business, you know, we just gotta, it's our place, we gotta take care of it. We want to get these people back in here so we can make some more money.
The money is washing away for 2 of the beach's main hotels, so don't expect to enjoy a weekend holiday at this inn. The parking lot is a pile of sand. And this shell seems to be somewhat cracked. The resort has structural damage. Security guards keep a close watch on closed hotels and resorts, but it's not just businesses and sidewalks that are crumbling. There's still a few places that are managing to turn a disaster into dollars. Not much damage, not many worries. Things run smooth at the Blockade Runner. It's the only major hotel that's open.
So I feel really very blessed. We certainly say our thank yous, every night.
Still, workers say their biggest challenge is to get people to understand that Wrightsville isn't beached for good.
I think, it's going to be hard for a year because people have this image that the island was destroyed. And I think the barricades and that kind of image is a very hard thing for people to get over right away.
And this is the image businesses want you to remember. At Wrightsville Beach, Mark Modern, Fox 22, 10 o'clock news.
Most businesses and hotels we talked to plan to reopen in mid-October. Many say they will survive because the storm hit at the tail end of summer. New Hanover County is one of the hardest hit areas in the state. That's the finding of the American Red Cross's final damage study. Other devastated counties include Onslow, Pender, Wake, Johnston, Brunswick, and Duplin. The report shows close to 28,000 homes damaged in those counties. Included in that figure, nearly 2,500 homes that were destroyed. The Red Cross relief operation cost an estimated $7 million. Assistance is made possible through donations. If you can help, please call 1-800-HELP-NOW.
And tonight it looks like more federal disaster aid is on the way. Congress has already approved $1.3 billion in emergency funds for Hurricane Fran victims. Now a Senate bill is tacking on an additional $700 million for a grand total of $2 billion. That's how much Governor Hunt and Senator Jesse Helms initially requested. The Senate's bill now heads to the president's office for his signature.
Carolyn Clifford, Rick Sullivan with sports, and meteorologist Steve Swankowski. North Carolina's award-winning primetime newscast, the Fox 22 10 o'clock news.
Yet we're still cleaning up the mess. The first round of hurricane cleanup is complete in Raleigh. More than 400,000 cubic yards of debris has been cleared from streets and yards. That's equal to about 24,000 truckloads of junk. And it's not over yet. Now cleanup crews are beginning round 2. That's expected to take at least another 2 weeks.
And maybe you think it's taking you longer to get to and from work. Well, the reason could be the intersections you travel each day. Once again, we have Fran to thank. Fox 22's Matt Lundy has more.
This is Raleigh's high-tech traffic cop, the city's traffic control center, knocked out of control by Hurricane Fran.
At the end of the storm, we had 300 or so of those intersections that we were either unable to communicate with, they had lost power, or they were damaged to the point where they couldn't function properly.
That's quite a blow, since the computer system, now only 6 months old, controls 420 signals in the city. 90% of the system is back in sync, but for those lights still out of sync, well, it means a longer wait for drivers.
Forever. I don't know if it's out of sequence or not, but it's just taking forever.
All I know is that there are times when it seems like the wait at the stoplight takes a lot longer than it used to.
Does that bother you at all?
Very much so. Very much so.
This traffic corridor along Glenwood Avenue near Crabtree Mall, the busiest in the city. About 77,000 cars will pass through here on an average day. Now, if you're wondering what the average is for your wait at a traffic light in the city, engineers say that you could wait anywhere from 1 minute and 10 seconds to a maximum amount of just under 4 minutes. Some intersections taking longer to get through. Fran's floodwaters damaging sensor pads designed to trip signals, giving you the green light.
The sensors are actually wire loops that are embedded in a saw cut in the pavement, and then a sealer is put down on top. In many cases, water got under the asphalt, heaved the asphalt.
With 2 miles of replacement communications cable on order for the traffic control system, some repairs are still unfinished. Until the whole system gets the green light, the word for drivers is patience. In Raleigh, Matt Lundy, Fox 22, 10 o'clock news.
And there's more. Traffic engineers also point out that due to tree removal trucks on the roads, it's taking drivers longer to get around town. They say it takes one heavy truck the same amount of time as 3 cars to pass through an intersection.
Timber damage caused by Hurricane Fran is costing big bucks. The figures are astounding. 8.2 million acres of trees were damaged by the storm. The total value, $1.2 billion. Pender, Brunswick, and Moore counties suffered the most damage. 53 counties around the state had extensive timber damage and will take a while to recover. The State Department of Natural Resources says it will do its part to help out.
It's committed to working closely with the Cooperative Extension Service, with the forest industry, and with others who are involved in this to provide landowners with assistance in salvaging as much of this timber as possible.
Officials say fallen timber will undoubtedly cause excessive brush fires come next spring.